After-hours football debate for poachers, private eyes...
Could I ask you something personal?
...and pole dancers.
I'm not in market for business, love.
Mike Graham's been all three at some point in his career.
Oh, really, you great big sweaty bush idiot?
I'll tell you what, you were a better pole dancer than presenter, I can tell you that.
The Two Mikes on Talk Sport.
Look at the light!
To use the time always as a handbrake U-turn to get out of an argument you can't win.
No, I use the time to keep the show going towards the right time frame that it's meant to go in.
Balderdash. Doesn't affect the price of sushi. I don't like being portrayed as an idiot.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes. Thanks to Andy Golston and Jason Cunley for the Sports Bar. They'll be back at 10 o'clock tonight. Time to say a very, very hearty welcome to Mr. Mike Porky Blue Tick Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
Sorry, is that some sort of reference to my medical condition?
No, it's not at all. No, it's a reference to what your very happy event yesterday when you were made, an official member of the Twitterati by getting a blue tick, which you've been banging on about all day on Twitter. I noticed. Sure,
but this hearty reference, is this some sort of little dig at my, my fragile physical condition?
Hearty welcome means just a very hearty, warm, big, hello.
Only one-third of my heart works.
I've heard that. Yeah.
So I don't like.
I don't know why you get paranoid already so early in the show.
This dig, but anyway, yes. A very good morning to you,
Mike.
I'm
trying to say something nice about you, and already you're getting all worked up about it.
No, I don't get worked up. I just, I question your motives in almost everything you do.
Is that right? Well, I'll tell you what, a little bit later on in the show, I'll be questioning your motives after that trip to Newcastle, because I finally found myself reading the pathetic piece that you put in the paper.
Oh, hang on.
Which seems to all be about you.
Excuse me.
Seems to all be about you.
Excuse me, am I the journalist who wrote the piece?
Well, the journalist only wrote the piece with the tools that he was given.
Well, hang on. You were supposed to send him some pictures of the
Yes, I did.
Did you do that?
Yes, I did.
Oh, really?
And he didn't use them, did he?
No, they didn't think much of those pictures. Perhaps they thought you were too fat and ugly to be in a picture in the esteemed organ, the Newcastle Evening Chronicle.
Well, presumably they just decided...
For which I used to work, of course.
Under your instruction, presumably what they did was they decided just to use a picture of you.
How can I instruct anybody in an independent newspaper like that? It is a mighty newspaper, the Evening Chronicle.
Well, we'll get to that later on.
I used to work for it. Now, look, we've got to talk about all the sports things first as well.
We have.
Now...
Let's talk about Daniel Sarker-Levy.
Daniel Sarker-Levy.
In a
second, we'll talk about Daniel Sarker-Levy.
Yeah.
But I want to talk to you about the start of the Ashes today. I was absolutely appalled to see that the game of cricket, which should be the game of cricket that stands aside from all the showbiz glitterati and all that, has now finally succumbed to the same ridiculous entrado to the playing to the playing arena as football and rugby, and that is all the players, these are grown men, trailing onto the pitch, holding the hand of a little bemused child and dragging them out onto the pitch.
We've had this argument before. Children are not bemused by it. Children are very delighted to be there.
They're not. They're utterly bemused, and the whole world's bemused and thinking, what's going on? Is this a meeting of Dr. Barnardo's? Are all these children like orphans and waifs who've been found wandering the streets outside the...
I very much doubt it.
Outside the Cardiff arena where this cricket's taking place.
Maybe they've paid for the privilege of being there.
It's ludicrous. Children have no part in adult sport. I don't know what they're doing there.
Well, why are they allowed to watch it then? Why are they allowed to? They're good enough. If it's good enough for them to pay, they can money. Entrado, by the way, means elderly in Spanish.
It wasn't Spanish. It was English. It was an English application of the word entrance.
Okay.
What would you have called it then?
Well, I would call it entrance.
No, you can't. In the tense that I used it, I said, when the teams came out and their entrado.
Their entrance.
No, not their entrance. That's too. You see, the trouble with you is you only know basic English.
I know correct English.
I know mature.
If you're describing the entrance of a team, it's the entrance.
I know mature and developed English, and that's how I try to use words to paint pictures for our millions of listeners to get them involved in the atmosphere of what we're talking about. But I think our millions of listeners will agree with me. It was a pathetic scene. What I like to see is, because cricket is such a dignified sport, I like to see two men...
Dignified sport?
Yeah, two men...
What, you mean the one where they go into each other's faces and shout at each other and knock each other over?
I think sledging's a very good thing.
Well, it's not very dignified, though, is it?
No, I like sledging.
I don't have a problem with it, but I wouldn't call it dignified.
I think it is dignified, because the best one, by the way, was the guy who came in, and Dominic Cork told me he was on the breakfast show this morning with Al, and some Australian guy called Mark Waugh, who's got a brother called Steve Waugh, who's better than him, said to the guy, what are you doing here? You're not good enough to play for England. And he said, well, at least I'm the best cricketer in my family, pal. Because his brother Steve Waugh was so much better than him.
And who was it said that?
I don't know.
Well, you said Dominic Cork told you this morning.
Yeah, he did, but I've forgotten.
You've forgotten?
It doesn't matter.
Was it not Joe Root?
No, it definitely wasn't Joe Root. It's irrelevant anyway, because the name of the cricketer is not important. It's the actual incident I'm telling you about.
Okay, all right.
But cricketers have become namby-pambies, trailing onto the pitch, holding the
I don't
hand
know why
of
you
a
have
small
such
child.
a problem with this. I mean, I don't have a problem with it at football. I don't have a problem with it particularly at rugby or cricket either.
I think it's dreadful. I think it verges on child abuse, dragging these poor children on, psychologically damaging them.
Rubbish.
And then
they love it. It's the highlight of their
don't.
week. It may possibly be the highlight of their year.
They're usually left on the field, running around, wondering what they're doing here. Where are the parents? Why have these big
parents
men
will be watching
dragged
the
us
game.
onto the field? No, I'm sorry, I don't like it.
You've got some kind of weird childhood secret that you've never told anyone.
No,
this
I
is why
haven't.
you harbour all of these weird things about children being asked to do things.
No, I haven't.
Why would you have such an overreaction? It's such a simple, very pleasant thing to be asked to do.
A test match should start with two men, big and strong, walking out, bat under their arm, putting their gloves on, striding towards the wicket. That's what should happen.
But every sporting event now,
is
made very much of, partly because of the fact that every sporting event now
it's
is
over
worth,
the top, and we should take a stand and say, OK, you want to do that in the Indian Premier League for a bit of razzmatazz, fair enough, but you do not do it at an English county cricket ground.
Why not?
Well, because it's undignified.
It was in Wales, wasn't it?
And it's... Sorry?
It was in Wales, wasn't it?
I meant British. And it's undignified, and it sells the game down the river. I don't like it. I do not like it.
Well, I'm afraid you will be the only person in the world who doesn't like it, because the children have a great time. The children have a very good day to remember. They meet some of their idols in sport, and I think for them it's something to be cherished. I don't think you should be so miserly about it.
Oh, really? Andy Murray is going to beat Federer.
No, we're moving on from that now.
No, Andy Murray's going to beat Federer in the semi-final, isn't he?
I don't know.
He is. I'm telling you, you heard it here first.
Okay.
You heard it here first.
All right. Well, he beat him in the Olympics, didn't he?
Yeah, of course he did.
And apparently he's going to replay that video.
Exactly. He's going to watch all
get
those
himself
games.
into. But the last time he played him, apparently, he didn't beat him, and he hasn't beaten him every time.
No.
Federer's playing rather well too.
Yeah, well, Federer's playing all right, but Andy Murray's playing better.
But I'll tell you what will be strange.
Confidence.
What will be strange is that we've got a British player on probably centre court. I presume they're going to be playing,
Yes.
and there might actually be at least 50% of the crowd who want Federer to win, because Federer is the darling of Wimbledon.
Oh no, don't be ridiculous.
No, I'm not being ridiculous. There are many people who will be watching that
ridiculous.
game who will not be rooting for Andy Murray.
No, there won't be.
Which I think will be wrong.
Well, if they are, they should not go to Wimbledon on that day. I mean, the point is, Andy Murray is our local hero. He's already a Wimbledon champion.
Yeah.
He's a Grand Slam champion outside of Wimbledon, and we want him to notch up a... I mean, wouldn't it be great this year if Andy Murray notches up a second Wimbledon?
Yeah.
If Lewis Hamilton notches up a third Formula One world title...
Yeah.
And if the England rugby team get their act together and do something in...
I think you're now stretching a little bit too far.
I'm stretching it
wouldn't it be
too far.
great if Rory McIlroy could retain his Open Championship, which, of course, now he won't be able to do, despite what you said, because he's now pulled out of it.
Well, I didn't say...
You said that he might recover in time.
I did not say
yes,
that.
You did.
I did not
you
say
did
that.
So.
You're putting words in my mouth.
No, you definitely said that.
I know, by the way, I was going to tell you about this. I was going to tell you about it last night.
Right.
I know the pain of sporting injury, keeping you out of competition at the highest level.
Yeah.
When I heroically walked the Great North Run.
When you walked the Great North Run?
I couldn't run it because, of course, my heart, only 1/3 of it works.
You only did that for the attention, though, didn't you?
No, and
did they do a big piece on the Newcastle Chronicle then as well?
No, but they wanted to, but I wouldn't have it. I was doing it for charity.
Well, why didn't you get publicity for the charity?
Well, I could have done, but I thought it might have reflected back on me.
No.
But because my heart can't pump blood around my body fast enough, I can't run. I can walk, but I can't run.
Yeah.
So I walked.
You can
13
walk quite
miles.
quickly, though, can't you?
But I did it with a hairline fracture on my metatarsal.
Did you?
It was painful every
How
step.
did you do that?
I don't know.
Well, you didn't. It was not a sporting injury, was it?
My bones are weak because of the number of drugs I take to keep my heart going.
Yeah, but it's not a sporting injury.
Well, yeah, but it was a sporting event, which I just gritted my teeth and got through it.
Well, no, it's not. If you're walking around in a sporting event in which you're supposed to run, I'm sorry, you're not taking part.
In another...
No, you're not taking part in it.
another incident...
Either you run in a run or you don't.
In another incident earlier in my life, I also had to overcome crippling injury, and it was crippling because I had a row with a girlfriend the day before I was playing in the final of the darts competition at the University of the Trent.
Why are you throwing a mock dart as you say this story?
Well, because it takes me back to my days when I was known as Dead-Eye Dick.
Yeah. Whereas now you're just known as Dick.
How immature are you going to be during the show tonight? How immature
I'm going to be very immature tonight.
I was.
You know why I'm going to be immature? Because I'm fed up of your ludicrous self-promotion and your ludicrous, ridiculous, pathetic attempt at trying to get sympathy.
I was known as Dead-Eye Dick, and what happened was we had a row, and she bent my finger back, my middle finger back, and it sort of torn the tendon and all that. Despite that, despite
she's quite a strong girl.
Well, she went mad on crazy about something. I can't remember what it
Well,
was
it's
now.
probably because you were two-timing her.
No, well, I wasn't, but it was something else. I can't remember what it was now. I didn't turn up. I didn't turn up for something. I stayed and played snooker somewhere, I think. Yeah. And despite the fact that I had what you could call a withered finger, which was flapping around all that, and one of the main things on your right hand that you need to throw a dart. Right. I just ignored the pain and used my other finger, and I still won the game. Still won the match. Yeah.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
Well, I hope we've got more stories like that to hear tonight,
well,
because Mike Parry's full of stories about himself, and no doubt there will be plenty of
I'm not full of stories about myself. I'm talking about the topical issue,
well, so far
which is sporting injury.
So far, you've told 2 stories about yourself. We haven't even talked about Raheem Sterling yet. This is Talk Sport. We are the 2 mics.
Blue tick.
Talk Sport, we are the 2 mics. He's Mike Parry, I'm Mike Graham. This kind of sympathy thing for you is really disturbing me. It's going on. It's still going on. This is from some guy called Michael, who's texted in, right? He goes, Porky. Oh, hang on, it's just disappeared. Let me get it back for you. Okay. Porky, why doesn't MG say your name with the same gusto as he does with his own?
Exactly.
In the intro. When he says your name, the octave goes down a couple of notches.
I know.
Have a look, Parry.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, I've no idea whether you're an expert in musical pitch, but I suspect it doesn't go down a couple of notches in the octave. Simply, when I say I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, I don't hear any difference in that. This is what you've done. You've somehow managed to, I don't know, manipulate the minds
I've not
of the feeble-minded out there who seem convinced that I'm somehow victimising you in some way.
You see, that,
it's absolutely extraordinary.
See, once again, a terrible insult.
This is what you do, isn't it?
No, it's a terrible insult to our millions of listeners. They are free-thinking people, and all they do is listen to the shows and unfolds over 3 hours. Right. And then at the end, they come to a conclusion about who the numpty is in the show, i.e. you, and who's the guy
I never insult you.
Who's the guy...
You spend a lot of time insulting me.
Hang on, you just insulted me in the opening
How did I insult
10 minutes of the show.
How did I insult you?
Going on and telling people that I'm only into self-publicity and all that kind of stuff.
Well, that's true, though.
No, it's not true.
Well, when they see the piece that Newcastle Chronicle did,
tell them about it. Go on, tell them about it.
They'll see it very clearly.
They'd like to know.
Well, you want to hear about it now, do you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, hang on, I'll have to find it now because it's hidden on my information device here somewhere.
Yes.
But basically, the idea was you were going to go up to Newcastle last Friday,
which I did.
You were going to check out the theatre, right?
Which I did.
And you were going to have a word with a couple of the journos up there.
Yes.
And they were going to do a piece about the show.
Yes, that's right.
That was the idea, right?
That's right. Yes.
Now, so what we have here is a great big picture of you, which dominates the top half of the page.
Yeah.
With your arms in the air, apparently celebrating something.
Yeah.
But you appear to be outside a stadium in Lisbon.
Yeah, I think it is, because there's an eagle there, isn't there?
There's an eagle,
and I think that's the Eagle of Lisbon.
Is it?
I think that's the Sport in Lisbon, or maybe even Benfica Stadium.
Right. So that has nothing to do with it. So the pictures that you asked me to send this guy of the 2 mics don't seem to appear anywhere, right?
No, I know, but I don't know where that picture came. I've never seen that picture before, seriously. I don't know where they got it from.
Well, they've used a ridiculously outmoded picture of you, and one which has nothing to do with the show.
I think
the
I
headline
look pretty
says,
handsome, actually.
The headline says, when it's my time to retire, I'm heading to the northeast.
Yes, that's right.
So you've got...
But I've said that to you many times. I've said that to you.
So 2 references to my and I, right? So nothing to do with the 2 mics.
Well, they were quite impressed by me, you see.
Were they?
Yeah. I mean, these gang...
Here's the reporter's name is Kieran Southern.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
This is the start to his wonderful story. Radio motormouth Mike Parry has told of his plans to retire to the northeast.
Well, there you go.
Is this supposed to be a story?
Well,
is that news?
Listen.
Radio motormouth Mike Parry has told of his plans to retire to the northeast, and before that, he's going to pop into Witherspoons and have a couple of pints and a fish and chips supper.
Why not? Look, a team of top journalists from the Newcastle Evening Chronicle, one of the top evening papers in the country, came to see me, heard I was in the northeast, had been listening to the radio, sought me out, bought me a drink and all that kind of stuff, chatted to me, and I can't control what they write in their newspaper.
Let's have a listen to the second paragraph then, shall we?
Oh, OK, yeah.
Parry, one half of bickering duo The 2 Mics alongside Mike Graham, is about to bring his highly successful show to Newcastle.
Well, I mean, again, I didn't write that. I mean, look, you get a great mention there. It says I'm one half of a show that includes you.
But it calls it your show.
For that.
But it calls it your show.
Well, most people regard it as, it is the 2 mics, but I mean... there are 2 mics, but, a lot of people think, well, there's one mic and one mic, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? Yeah?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Here's the next paragraph. Yes. Let's see if there's anything in there about the 2 mic show, shall we?
Yeah.
Porky Parry is no stranger to the tune, having worked at the Evening Chronicle 40 years ago.
40
years
brilliant.
Ago?
Fantastic. That's amazing.
Hold the front page.
They must have counted that up.
I hope there's like a 3-part series of this.
Well, I think they find the whole thing fascinating.
Must have been a slow news day.
I do fascinate people.
And then, all right, so let's move to the next paragraph, shall we? Because listeners to this show will find this terribly terribly familiar, right? Since living in Wallsend, now, I can't imagine where he got this particular paragraph from, right? Yeah. He became one of Fleet Street's finest.
well,
covering, wait for it,
the
death of Princess Diana,
yes,
shaking hands with Bill Clinton,
yes,
and dodging bombs in Libya.
Well, there you go.
So you covered shaking hands with Bill Clinton.
Yes.
This guy doesn't even know how to write.
Well, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, you don't cover shaking hands with Bill Clinton, do you?
I mean,
unless you wrote about it yourself.
Hang on, Mike. Look at it this way: if you walked around the city of Newcastle for 3 hours tomorrow morning, how many people would you find who'd shaken hands with one of the most famous US presidents of the modern era, President Bill Clinton? Well, I have as well.
Well, there you go. So
but you're not in Newcastle.
Well, I will be on for Saturday week.
Well, you
Friday
will.
Week.
Yeah, Saturday week. You will be. Exactly. What I'm saying is that is quite something to the people of Newcastle. A fine body of people that they are as well. Yeah. But I don't know why you get worked up about these things. I can't help it.
I'm not getting worked up about it.
They find me more charismatic than you.
I'm just saying, I don't understand why. In this whole piece,
they find you rather droll.
There is no mention of the two Mikes at all. I mean, I'll just pick another paragraph at random.
Yeah, go on.
Football mad Parry also has a massive fondness for Newcastle United.
Well, there you go.
Really?
Well,
since when?
Well, since I lived there, and I've worked there since, and all that. I do think that Newcastle United is a terrific institution.
Right. And then it says, but he can't work out why a club of this size hasn't conquered Europe. Well, it then says, I come from Merseyside, and one distinct culture in the Scouser.
Yeah. Well, actually...
so do you come from Merseyside or do you come from Chester?
No, I come from Chester.
Well, why does it say you come from Merseyside?
Well, I don't know. And I'm not a Scouser, so I can't quite explain that one. But, I mean, that's, as I said, I didn't write it.
Were you sober when they were interviewing you?
Sorry?
Were you sober when they were interviewing you?
Of course I was sober. What are you on about? What a ridiculous thing to ask, honestly. You'd think, the sort of impression you give of me is that I'm staggering around the world half-bladdered most of the time, telling people how great I am.
Well, that's the impression I'm getting.
Well, no, but I don't do that.
What about this one?
This
is only somebody who's completely off his trolley and bonkers can say this.
What?
Talk about Mike Ashley. When Mike Ashley walks into Sports Direct, he's dealing with the man on the street. He isn't dealing with Taylor Swift or J-Lo.
Yeah. Well,
where did that come from?
Well,
you've never even heard of Taylor Swift.
Well, it's an analysis of the fact that the working man and the sort of business that Sports Direct is different from working in the showbiz world, which includes football.
Yeah.
And, very famous and rich people. That's all I'm saying there. It's just an observation, that's all.
Yeah.
But look, when I speak, people
story.
listen.
Very
you can't get over that,
next time you go up to promote a show, I mean...
You can't get over that.
The difference between you and I is that when I got a piece put into the Evening Standard,
yes,
right, it was about the two of us. There was a picture of the two of us.
Yes.
It was a story about the show.
Yes.
It was not a story about me. It was not a story about you.
Right.
It was a story about the show.
Well, exactly.
This is all about you.
Well, you see, the thing is, I think that I have a natural sort of association with the people of the northeast of England.
Yeah.
I think there's an empathy between us. They are hard-working people whose backgrounds sometimes have been mired in pain and.
No, you might have paid if you read this rubbish.
I'm talking about their ancestors.
They thought so highly of it, they put it on page 28, by the way.
To the 20s. Yeah, but I mean, that's a very important page in a paper like the Evening Chronicle.
It's a left-hand page.
It's a very important page, honestly. But anyway, look, I can see it's winding you up, so we won't talk about that, except to say that there are still a few tickets left for the Newcastle show. Yeah. It's a week on Saturday.
Despite your efforts.
And where do
to tell everybody, because you haven't told anybody about the tickets. There's no mention of the tickets.
It is at the end.
At the bottom.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't find that.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's all about you.
And what's it say? What's it say at the end?
Let me see. What does it say at the end?
It says you can get the tickets from our website, which is the2mics.co.uk.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to join us
I'm surprised it says the two Mikes will be appearing at the Tyne Opera. I'm surprised you didn't make them say Mike Parry will be appearing at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House.
Well,
on Saturday,
I
July
think they
18th.
wanted to write Mike Parry with his, cohorts will be, but I said, no, we'll call it the two Mikes, okay?
Shocking. Absolutely shocking. Anyway, I just want this ridiculous sympathy campaign for you to stop.
Yeah. By the way, the bar at the theatre we're going to is wonderful and easy to find. Because some of the theatres we've worked at in the past, you have to sort of go through a labyrinth of underground corridors to get from the stage and the theatre to the bar.
Oh, really?
This one, the bar, literally, you walk out of the stalls in the theatre, boom, straight into the bar. It's brilliant.
Oh, good, okay.
Oh, it's a beautiful bar. It's a Victorian bar.
It, then.
It's a beautiful Victorian building. We're going to enjoy it. Now, what did you think of the budget?
What do I think of the budget? Well, to be honest... I didn't watch it because I find these things very tedious.
Yeah, I didn't either. But I
watched a bit of the analysis of it. I've seen what the papers are saying about it.
Yeah.
It seems to me to be a reasonably good one, as far as I can tell. People are squealing and moaning about the fact that they won't be able to afford to have any more children because the tax credit system is going to be changed to stop them getting paid for more than two, which seems to me to be something that you should have to make a decision on anyway.
Well,
if you can't afford to have children, you shouldn't have to have them.
Yeah, I
that
agree.
That would be my only observation.
I agree with that. Well, I'm incredibly proud that a campaign I've been working on for years has come to fruition. I have always always demanded that we must up the minimum wage rate per hour, and now it's going to go up to. Yes, it is a campaign of mine.
It is another campaign.
It's a
I didn't know about this one.
Yeah. I have been campaigning
Although
for
you're
years.
right, I do remember you saying that it's a nonsense to pay sort of tax credits to people, which is basically subsidising companies.
Exactly.
So companies should be paying people more money.
But the basic minimum wage was about £5.20 just 3 years ago. I've been campaigning ever since, and within a few years it'll now be £9 an hour.
Yes.
And I think that's brilliant. And even that is very hard to live on. If you're paid £9 an hour, right? And you'd multiply that by 8 hours a day, which is the basic working day.
Yeah, what's that?
That's £72.
It is.
And if you multiply that by 5 days a week, that's £360.
Yeah.
Even that is a very poor wage for an adult person. Might be
it
right
is.
for a young person. And so I have enormous, absolute sympathy
Yeah.
for people who have to work on the minimum wage, and £9 is the minimum. Now, I saw some small businesses today all giving it a bit of whinging and moaning, put us out of business and all that. No, it won't. It won't, honestly. I mean, if you've got to put a few pence on your products just to come up to the minimum wage, then you should, because we should all contribute to making people's lives a bit better at the bottom end of the scale.
Yeah.
And that's no disrespect to people on the minimum wage,
No.
but I mean, I'm afraid they are at the bottom end of the scale, and we need to help improve their lot, because they are as important to society as those at the top end of the scale.
Mrs.
okay?
Mobb will be pleased, I presume, because obviously you'll have to up her salary, won't you?
I'm not getting into that.
As per the budget.
I mean, I'm not getting into that. You know, that is a private matter between myself and my housekeeper.
Well, that's not a private matter.
I assume
No, it
you're
isn't.
referring to my housekeeper.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, I've done her a great favour.
What have you done?
I bought her a new washing machine.
Have you?
Yep.
I thought you only just bought a new washing machine.
No.
Well, that was a dishwasher, wasn't it?
I haven't used a dishwasher for about 5 years
Haven't you?
now, but I did get a new one.
But wasn't there a time when you had two washing machines or two dishwashers or something? One was
Yeah.
arriving and one was going to be removed.
Well, that was in a different building.
Oh, a different building?
Yes, it
Oh,
was.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
apologies.
Yeah.
How many washing machines do you own then?
3.
3 washing machines?
Yes.
Along with the 3 skyboxes?
Yes, that's right.
Right, okay.
And actually, you're quite right. I've got to ring up Sky and try and amalgamate those boxes, because I'm clearly doing something wrong.
So you
there.
bought her a new dishwasher, a new washing machine?
Yeah.
How very kind of you.
Yeah, she's thrilled about it, to be honest, and it's good. Now, what I was going to say is, on this situation, the minimum wage and all that kind of stuff, it highlights another great problem we've got in this country, which a survey which I have been studying today reflects, and that is that 1/3 of all people who get degrees in this country, because there's so many of them now, don't need that degree for the job they eventually take
I'm sure
up.
that's right.
It's a completely irrelevant waste of time.
Yeah.
They've been wasting 3 years at a university getting a degree in something that is worthless, and then it becomes worthless in the job that they do.
Yeah.
So why don't we do what I've been campaigning for, another campaign of mine for years and years and years, is to scrap half of the degrees that are given out in this country and go back to... Thank you. And go back to technical colleges where we teach people how to lay bricks.
Well, I think that's
and
one of the
plumbers.
plans. I think that's one of the plans the government have actually got.
I hope so. If they do, it's one that I've supported as well over the years. And carpenters. And why haven't we got any ironmongers?
Plasterers.
Why haven't we got any ironmongers anymore?
Well, I didn't know we didn't have any.
We don't have any ironmongers, and we don't have any...
I'll tell you what we don't have is any clock watchers. Have you seen the time?
Well, you're always going on about it.
Well,
I mean,
because we've got to
honestly.
stop.
But you see, your problem is, Mike, your brain is so inactive, you can't wait to get to a break, because that gives you a rest from having to think.
You can't say that word.
From having to think.
No,
It
that's
does.
not true.
It does.
Well, it does give me a break
You're
from having to
thinkless,
listen to you.
You're thinkless most of
It
the
does
time.
give me a chance to have a break from listening to
Your brain's an empty
cobblers
tank.
that brings a lot
Tell
of...
you what, that expression about empty vessels make the most noise was made for you.
Really?
Your head's empty.
Well, how come you're the one that's making the most noise?
Because I've got things to say.
Yeah, well, you've
You're
just
irrelevant.
kidnapped yourself, you complete plank.
You're
This
like
is Talk Sport.
You're like one of those people with one of those degrees. You're irrelevant.
Talk Sport.
And it's in!
A diving header at the end of a 50-yard run.
From the root to the tip.
Talk Sport.
And Daniel Levy saying the word soccer repeatedly there, and also saying, I mean, I would have thought if I was a Spurs fan that you might want to think that he wasn't putting so much effort into attracting an NFL team to come and play at White Hart Lane.
What's your objection to that?
But actually, that he was putting more effort into making Spurs a top 4 team, which is what they ought to be, or at least they ought to be challenging for the top 4.
Yeah, but I mean, look, I'm not a huge fan of Mr. Levy. I think he's made incredibly bad decisions over the years in appointing managers and allowing huge amounts of money to be spent on players that were no good. But I can understand where he's coming from. He wants to create a sporting dynasty here, you know, in terms
A sporting dynasty of what, though?
Well, a sporting dynasty of a club that's sort of multifaceted. I can understand it.
But Tottenham Hotspur is not a club that's multifaceted. Tottenham Hotspur is a football club, right?
Yeah.
It is not an American football club. It is an English football club. And so, therefore, if he's going to hope to create this kind of, double dual use stadium, which is going to be the first of its kind in the world, and they're going to play at least 2 NFL games a year there.
Yeah, 2
and then
a year.
Possibly, and then
That's not going to bother anybody.
But what will then happen is it will be become the home of the London whatever
It doesn't matter. That's okay.
Well, it does matter.
No, it doesn't.
But you're meant to be a football traditionalist.
Yes, I am.
And you're basically saying that this is okay.
It's okay for Spurs.
So it's okay for Daniel Levy to refer to football now as soccer. It's okay for him to use the stadium, which is his.
He can refer to it as anything he wants. It's
home stadium as an American football venue.
Yeah, but you see, you haven't been a student of football as long as I have. One of the greatest problems that football has is what to do with a stadium on about 13 days out of 14 throughout a year.
Right.
You only use a stadium, generally speaking, once a fortnight, and this massive stadium stands there, built of iron and aluminium and wood and everything else, and nothing happens there for 13 days out of 14.
Yeah, but it's the home of the football team.
I know it's the home of the football team.
It doesn't mean you just rent it out for the old car boot sale and the odd sort of other event that you might want to have going on.
No, you don't. But if you've got another sporting body there using that stadium, then that contributes to making Spurs
I don't agree.
A more financially healthy club, and that's
I don't
good.
agree.
Now, the thing is, it's not as if they're going to play on the same
Do you
pitch.
think Liverpool would ever do that at Anfield?
Yeah,
do you
I think one of these
Manchester
days they
United
will.
would ever do it?
Well,
do you think that Arsenal would ever do it? No, I don't think so.
There's no attraction for American football in the northwest of England, so
That's not
they
true.
won't. In fact, there's very little attraction for American football in the whole of this country. So I think
That's not true either.
I think yes, it is. I think he's on a bit of a loser
They
there.
sell out Wembley quicker than England do when England play football.
Yeah, but that's only when a team from America visits on a very special occasion and brings all the cheerleaders with them. Most people go to watch the cheerleaders. They don't go to watch the
I don't think so.
the American football.
There's 85 odd thousand people. Let's talk to Jeff Ellis and find out from him what he thinks about this particular move, because I think it's the thin end of the wedge. Jeff, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
Well, I thought that we always did things outrageously here, but now you guys are looking to bring the monster truck show to town.
Yeah.
Well, exactly right. I mean, you might. I mean, I don't know what sort of heritage American football stadiums have, and I suspect it's nothing like the heritage that the English football stadiums have, because they get used for all sorts of different things. But Tottenham Hotspur is a football club. Daniel Levy's now calling it a soccer club. He's now talking about bringing NFL football there on a regular basis, if not possibly basing an NFL franchise there. I think it's the beginning of the sort of scraping away of football as a traditional sport in this country.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
I don't think so.
Go on, Jeff.
Yeah, I think that it's certainly intriguing to see what's going on here, and I must say that the league has been consistently in front of me on this. I always like to think I'm a journalist who's chasing a story instead of chasing a story for the other reasons, which is I'm losing sight of it. And the league really has had a clear vision, even though it's not communicated till after the fact, of how they're going to grow the sport there and potentially put a team there. I was told last year by a source that 2017 would be certainly the last season that there wouldn't be a team in London. And that, again, the timetable of this, we've only had the international series for 5 years, 6 years. And then we've been adding a game the last few years. And one of the things that concerns me, and a question, I guess I should say, is that what's going on there at White Hart Lane, I understand 61,000 seats?
In the new stadium, yeah.
61, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I know Wembley's over 90.
Yep.
And so you're looking at a 30% reduction in attendance and ticket sales, which is really going to cut into your profit, which is all the NFL tends to care about. So I always think that's interesting because we've sold out all the fixtures so far at Wembley. And
well, according to Mike Parry, people really go to see the cheerleaders.
Well, they go for the occasion because it's something that's completely different in London. We're not aficionados or purists in the art of American football. But what I'm saying is, Jeff,
I got a quick story that supports what you're saying.
Yeah,
it was the very first international series, and believe it was the New York Giants were here against the Chargers.
Yeah,
and the cheerleaders were there, very prominent. And security managed to just keep all their attention on the cheerleaders, and several streakers made it onto the field.
Indeed.
Now, what about this other story, which is not yet confirmed, but is definitely on the rumour circuit, that Daniel Levy is looking to rename the stadium, where he's going to sell the rights to the naming of the stadium, and there's some talk that Mark Zuckerberg might be approached, and it might be known as the Facebook Arena.
Well, that's okay. There's nothing
you
wrong
don't
with
mind that?
No, of course I don't mind that.
Let's
That's
go up
happening
to
all over
watch
the world.
Everton playing Spurs at the Facebook Arena.
Well, why not? Because the Emirates is known as the Emirates now, and everyone's accepted internationally that the Emirates Stadium is where Arsenal play football. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. That's commercially makes absolute sense,
So the
Jeff,
next time
doesn't
you
it?
go banging on about traditional football, then you're going to have no leg to stand on, are you?
No, not at all. Yeah, go on, Jeff.
Sorry,
The
Jeff.
thing that's so interesting is that we look at the Premier League and all the leagues around the world, and all I see is the Manchester Chevrolets. The markings and the advertising on the chest of the jerseys is something that Americans can't begin to understand. And so the fact that we're talking about putting it on a stadium or something like that, it's just kind of what we're used to because of all of our stadiums over here are named, and it brings in usually over $1 million a year for the venue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, Mr. Levy's basing this on the American model. Most American stadiums pay for themselves in a much more efficient fashion than English football stadiums. Is that not true, Jeff?
Absolutely. Look,
yeah,
I mean,
but there's not many stadiums in American sport where they use them for the homes of two different actual
No, but they
teams
use them for all sorts of
in two different sports.
But they use them for all sorts of other events.
Yeah, they use them for rock concerts.
Yeah,
they use them as Jeff says for the monster truck thing. I mean, maybe you'd like Goodison Park to be turned into a monster truck fest for the weekend.
We had 110,000 people for the Country Music Awards.
Well, there you go. Absolutely.
In Jerry Jones Stadium in Dallas,
the
Cowboys.
Yeah. But you see, this is a good thing because in this country we've been struggling for decades to find out what to do with a football stadium, a massive, great monument, for 13 days out of 14. You only play one home game every 2 weeks, so this is partly the answer. I'm not the biggest fan of Mr. Levy, but I think on this occasion he's actually got it right, and I applaud him trying to change the model, the role model, Mike, for an English football stadium.
All right, and Jeff, how far away are we from having a London team playing in the NFL in reality?
At this pace, I think that timetable I heard last September at the International Series seems like it's, I would say probable. I'd put it at 50-50 because you've already got the Jacksonville Jaguars with their multi-year commitment to play in Wembley.
Yeah.
And once we start merging these things and Shad Khan starts deciding that it's not working financially in Jacksonville, and it's not.
Yeah.
He's losing a ton of money there, and there's only so long you deal with that. And if you can go into a new market and really put a post down there and mark your own territory, that's a huge win.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff,
Okay.
thanks very much indeed for
Thank
that.
you very much.
David has texted in to 1089. He said, the last time I had the misfortune to drive through the London borough of Haringey reminded me of an overcrowded, rubbish-strewn third world tip. If the Yanks are thinking of visiting London to watch an NFL game at White Hart Lane, I suggest they avoid the many greasy chicken shops and head straight to the station post-match.
That is a terrible thing to say about an area of this country. That is a shocking thing to say. You accuse me of...
I'm reading out somebody's view. I'm reading out, it's not my view.
That is a terrible thing to say. You've just branded Haringey, which is the location where Tottenham Hotspur's ground, White Hart Lane is, as a complete slum. That's what you've just done.
That's not what I've just done.
You've tried to...
David has sent in his opinion, and I've read it out on the air.
You've tried to intimidate millions of our listeners into thinking that Haringey is literally some sort of shanty town where Tottenham Hotspur just happened to pitch up and play football. That is a shocking
So you're doing it again
betrayal
now,
of the people of Haringey.
You're doing it again.
A shocking betrayal of the people of Haringey.
That comes from a man who's obviously been there and had a view on it.
I would never have read that out. I've never have read that out.
Darren.
Yeah. And the guy probably lives in a detached house worth about £300,000 in the leafy suburbs of Hertfordshire or something like that. I suspect so.
No,
he sounds like an incredibly snob, that man, to describe a part of the country like that.
You'd be able to recognise that. Darren, who's a Spurs fan, says,
I think you should be ashamed of yourself.
Mike, there's nothing negative about Spurs Stadium. It also is regeneration for the area.
Yeah.
And you know, living in America, the American football crowd are good-spirited and will spend money. It puts us on the global map. It's bigger than Arsenal's now, which means a lot, and it looks amazing. Yeah. I'm not a huge Daniel Levy fan, but you have to say he's got this spot on. I can't wait to sit in it. So two very different views there on the Tottenham front. I'd like to hear from more of you Tottenham fans.
Well, I would as well, because I think that, your condemnation of the area in which Tottenham is based...
It's not my condemnation.
Well, you should not have read that out.
This is a show that allows different views to be aired.
You should not have read that out.
Oh, what, you're applying for censorship, are you?
Well, I'm not applying for censorship. What I'm saying is I think you've got to be measured. If somebody writes in and says, oh, this part of England is a complete, tip and it's a slum, it's a shanty town, what right have we got to read that out and insult the people of that area?
Didn't use those
You've
words.
Insulted the people of Haringey.
No, I don't think so.
And considering you're going to be in Haringey on August the 27th, folks, Everton at White Hart Lane, 5:30 kick-off, Saturday evening kick-off, and I'm taking old Fatso with me.
I won't be there.
So you can bring your bags of tomatoes along.
I won't be there. Once again, trying to drum up hatred for me. Typically you, this is.
No,
this is
I don't have to.
Mr. Parry, you'll be amused to know. We're going to talk to a Dr. Doug Platter.
Oh, yeah, Doug.
Who's a space advocate from California. And he's going to tell us about how NASA are going to create a science lab on the moon. Because I'm a great believer in the colonisation of the moon, as I'm sure you are. Well, and I'm sure that you'll have some interesting things to say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is quite interesting, because, of course, it takes us into areas that are what you'd call the unknown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, talking about the unknown, the other night I was talking about the fact that when we die, we don't know what happens because nobody's ever come back. And that did prompt quite a lot of response. Quite a lot of response from people who pointed out to me that there are many, many accounts of people who think that they've been to the other side and come back, okay?
They do,
And
yeah.
I mean, I've got a few here. Let me tell you about this one here. The medical believer is a woman called Dr. Penny Sartori.
The medical believer? What's that?
Well, what I'm saying is she's a doctor, but she believes that, the afterlife has been within reach of those who are still on Earth. Near-death experiences do happen, she says. Some people have changes in their electromagnetic field.
Oh, yeah.
Electromagnetic field after...
which would suggest that they've actually been somewhere, you mean?
Well, this is absolutely right, yeah, when they get close to death and all that. They find that after the experience, they can't wear wristwatches and electrical items such as toasters and kettles blow up in their presence.
How bizarre.
So you will know somebody who's sort of touched the afterlife but come back.
Right.
If you're in the same room as them and the kettle starts blowing up and the toaster. During their experience, some feel like they leave their body, right? They leave their body and look down on an emergency operation where you yourself are the patient. Some people communicate with dead relatives or friends. Sometimes they gain information they were not previously aware of, and they wake up from this experience knowing things they did not know when they went into the coma.
Really?
One lady I met a few years ago had a near-death experience, and afterwards she had a deep understanding of quantum physics.
Why?
Well, she didn't know anything about quantum...
Why would she get a deep understanding of quantum physics?
Well, because she did.
Talking to someone who was dead.
No, she went into the afterlife, came back, and
Right.
somebody had blessed her with a deep knowledge of quantum physics.
That sounds ridiculous.
It's
So
not
why do you
ridiculous.
believe this claptrap?
It's not ridiculous.
Yeah, but you fall for all this rubbish.
This
don't you?
woman's a doctor. She's not. She's not
What's she a
talking.
doctor of?
She's a doctor.
Doctor what?
A PhD.
Oh, a PhD, so she's not an actual medical doctor then?
She is. She has a PhD in...
PhD doesn't mean you're a medical
in
doctor.
corrective therapy.
So she's one of these kind of psychobabblists. then.
No, she says... I mean, just listen, it's quite
She's not a medical doctor. Just repeat after me. She is not a medical doctor.
It's quite a thing to suddenly gain huge knowledge of quantum physics, which is one of those complicated...
Well, if you believe the story.
One of those complicated areas of science to understand.
Yeah, but
I know, because
this?
I've read a bit of it myself.
Really, quantum physics?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Now,
yeah, but why would you listen to this woman, right, who's clearly an artist of quackery, right? She's a PhD, calls herself a doctor.
Yes.
People who've got PhDs who call themselves doctors, I'm always suspicious of.
Yeah, well,
right?
let me go on. We don't think that consciousness is produced by the brain, but that it is mediated by... it's mediated by the brain.
Oh, yeah.
Right, it's not...
What does that mean?
Hang on. We don't think that consciousness is produced by the brain. It's mediated by the brain.
Yeah.
Research that we have done seems to lead to the conclusion that the brain acts as a filter for much, much more information in these sort of situations. It screens out a heightened state of awareness from our everyday reality, but there are times when someone comes close to death, or so close to death, that the brain dysfunctions and it allows this heightened state of awareness into our everyday reality.
Yeah, really.
Okay? Yeah.
What an absolute load of old cobblers.
But that is amazing, isn't it?
No, it's not amazing.
No, this
it's not true.
This doctor, Dr. Penny Sartori,
She's not a doctor.
She's actually seen people walk into the room.
Well, so she says.
Yeah.
I don't believe it.
And she's talked to them about their afterlife experience,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, the toaster blows up, bang, and then, as she moves around the room...
And she's witnessed all this, right?
Yeah, and then the kettle, bang, the
Yeah.
kettle blows up. That would be like...
You know that she's booby-trapped all these things. So
Don't
so
be
you could
ridiculous.
Say, oh, look what's happened. You've blown up the kettle and the toaster.
Do you know what?
I could write another book and sell it to a load more gullible people
Do you know what?
like Porky Parry.
This brings to my mind, because as a student of history, of course, one of the most fascinating elements of history is studying social and economic history.
Yeah.
And, of course, the great story about James Watt is the...
What's that?
Well, he discovered the piston engine, the steam engine, James Watt's steam engine.
Well, he invented it, didn't he?
Yeah, that's what I'm
He
saying.
didn't discover it.
Well, he did discover it. You know how he discovered it?
How did he discover it? Was it lying in the basement?
No, he was sitting in his mother's kitchen, wasn't
Yeah.
he? And she was boiling water over the fire.
And suddenly the kettle blew up.
I was about to say to you, and he suddenly noticed the lid of the kettle was lifting up, and he thought, what's happening there?
Yeah.
And it was water turning to steam, pushing the kettle up.
Yeah.
And that led to the invention of the steam engine.
Yeah.
However, I'm thinking what you've just said.
Yeah.
Maybe James Watt didn't discover the steam engine through that. Maybe he had died, gone into a coma, gone to the afterlife, come back.
Yeah, because that's a much more plausible story, isn't it?
Come back, and then, sitting next to his mother's fire with the steam kettle there, the kettle blew up because of the electromagnetic field that surrounded him from his afterlife experience.
That's unbelievable.
That could be the other answer.
Have you changed your medication today or something? You're gone completely
ridiculous.
bonkers.
That's completely plausible.
You're supposed to
that
be.
is completely plausible.
One of Fleet Street's finest, according to that piece in the Newcastle Chronicle.
It's true.
Now, let me read you a few tweets and texts because it's hard to talk absolute nonsense. Bill says this on the minimum wage that you were talking about. People won't be getting this £9 an hour for 5 bloody years, Porky, when inflation and tax credit cuts will negate it.
But inflation is like down to minus 0.2%.
Yeah, but he's right to say it's not coming in for 5 years.
Yeah, but it's a plan there to do it. And I mean that's more than anybody else has done. You've got to make the lives of the lowest classes a lot more comfortable. Otherwise, as Marie Antoinette said, they will eat cake and get rebellious.
Well, they won't eat cake and get rebellious. I don't think that was the order of things.
No, but I mean, you know what I'm saying about it.
She told them they should eat cake after they got rebellious.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely true, yeah. But I mean, you understand exactly what I'm talking about.
I do know what you mean.
And you mustn't talk about people like that. I mean, you've got to remember that 95% of people in this country don't earn over £35,000. So these people are a vital asset to the well-being and the well-running of our country. Yeah. And I'm their champion. I'm their champion.
Yeah, I know. Apart from the ones that live in council houses who you refer to as scum.
How dare you? I never did.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
You absolutely
I never did.
You're going to force me to find that piece of audio, aren't you?
I've challenged you to find that piece of audio 3 or 4 times. You still can't.
Yeah, we'll find it. Here's Tony from Brum. Has texted into 81089. Right. Mike Graham, please remind Mr. Parry that he recently referred to Kilburn as a rough area where lots of Irish people live. Not only insulting to millions of Irish decent people in the UK, but talk about double standards, and I think that's an important thing to point out.
I never referred to it as a downbeat area. I said Kilburn is well known for its Irish community, which it is.
Yeah, but you also described it as a rough area.
I did not describe it as a rough area. I said
it's not, by the way, anymore. It used to be.
I said, funnily enough, it's quite close to Hampstead, or particularly West Hampstead, which is a very posh and up-and-coming area. You know?
It is now.
Yeah.
William says this. First thing Porky does at venues for your live gigs is to check where the bar is. Well, that's fair enough. It's very important, that.
Yeah, of course
very
it is.
important.
Yeah.
John says, Porky never mentioned the party to that Newcastle reporter. I can't believe he didn't. Would love to see his notes. I think he means the show rather than the party.
Yes.
The professor says he didn't mean to say one of Fleet Street's finest. He meant to say one of Fleet Street's fattest. It's a bit unfortunate, isn't it?
No, that's half a joke.
And Becky says, to go with the new washing machine, Sid the sexist now needs to buy Mrs. Mop a new mangle, iron and ironing board.
Don't be ridiculous. Actually, funny enough, she's just got a new iron and ironing board, so there's not a problem there. As for a mangle, my mum used to have a mangle. Yeah. Your mother used to have a mangle?
My grandmother had a mangle, yeah.
Your grandmother?
My mother never really did, no. My mother, we had a washing machine from quite an early sort of time.
From quite an early time, my mum used to boil clothes in what she called a dolly tub, which was a big metal.
She used to boil your cricket jumper.
That's right. Yeah, a big metal bucket. She used to put on top of the gas stove, and boil everything up with a pair of wooden tongs, and until they were so white, they would dazzle you, absolutely dazzle you.
And what was she? I mean, it must have been quite a big thing then, wasn't it?
It was huge. It was like a bin.
Right.
She just put a bin on the top of the stove, and then light all 4, flamethrower things. You know, the
flamethrowers.
Well, not what they call
rings.
Gas rings. That's right. Yeah, and that would make the water. I don't know what you're laughing at.
Amazing, wouldn't it, if you had flamethrowers
well,
instead of a gas ring.
You know exactly.
I know exactly. The worst thing about all of this is that I know exactly what you're talking about when you refer to things incorrectly. Here's one from Man United Lads. He says, I'm 22 and lucky enough to earn just under £700 a week.
Right.
I took a lot of studying and hard work, and I'm very proud.
Well done.
That's as an electrical engineer. Work hard if you want a bit more money.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
So you agree with that as well as agreeing with the other thing about paying more money to people who don't work so hard?
Some people have not had the advantages in life that you and I have had, Mike. You know, some people. See, some people don't have the advantage of having a brain that works as efficiently as yours and mine.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault. They haven't had the benefit of great education. Their parents have probably not got them reading Enid Blyton and stuff when they're 3 or 4 years of age to improve their.
You think that was part of the road to success for you?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. That improved my brain. The challenge of a.
You did do very well on Enid Blyton.
The challenge of a kid at 4 years of age trying to work out the sinister plot about the bad guys and the good guys and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is part of a child's development, and if you're lucky enough to have that and your parents are interested in it, then you are indeed a very lucky person.
Well, here's one from Zobon on the subject of Spurs, right? He agrees with me. If Spurs buy into the NFL idea, it will spoil the culture of football for kids growing up, and I agree with that. And Bill says it's a slippery slope allowing USA influences, be Twitter Park or Bolton next, or the Instagram Stadium Newcastle.
Oh, right, I see. Interesting.
I don't think you'd be too keen if it was suddenly, Facebook Park instead of Goodison Park.
Well, if it brought me £1 billion or brought the club £1 billion, we would
Yeah.
spend that on players. I certainly would. I would have no objection. It's not like Everton would be breaking the mould and naming their stadium and nobody else has. Everybody else has.
Yeah.
I mean, crikey, Middlesbrough was known as was it the Vodafone Stadium years and years
Maybe,
ago?
yeah.
Was it Vodafone?
Not
or
sure, don't remember.
It was certainly it was a telephone company, I remember, because I tell you why I know this. Because the reason it was a telephone company. Now, which one was it? Was it Vodafone or? But the players who played there, I knew some of them at the time. It was in the days when I was, a director of communications at the FA and that kind of stuff. And what they used to do is the players, some of them were having illicit affairs with women who weren't their wives.
Really?
And so they got special phones.
How did you find out about all this? If you were the FA person?
They got special phones given to them by the
Well, just second phones.
Well, not only that, but brilliantly, what they were able to do was they were able to gerrymander the bills that went to their homes for their mobile phones.
I mean, didn't all their bills go to the club anyway?
Well, no, because they had home phones as well in those days and all that kind of stuff,
Was it was it when Cellnet were around? Was it BT Cellnet?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't Cellnet. It was, I think it was Vodafone, but I'm not sure. And brilliantly, they used to manage to strike out all the numbers of, girlfriends and mistresses and all that kind of stuff from all the phone bills. It was brilliant.
What, strike them out or just make them disappear?
Just make them disappear.
Right.
They'd never appeared there.
Amazing.
So, because, women, wives of footballers can be very insecure sometimes, if a footballing chap is attracting a lot of female attention from fans and all that kind of stuff. And so they do tend to do things like... In fact, a friend of mine, actually, his marriage collapsed when his wife started rifling through his pockets to find out why they didn't have enough money to go on holiday to Florida and found his William Hill betting account for the previous month.
Well, it could have been worse,
which showed that he owed over £4,000 when he'd been telling her that he didn't earn as much money as he did earn, and he couldn't take the family to Florida because he wasn't earning enough. In fact, he was losing about £4,000 a month on the...
And so she divorced him on that basis?
Yeah, and she got the house.
Yeah.
And he now lives in a bedsit.
Oh, dear.
Yeah,
does he still gamble?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, let that be a lesson to everybody who thinks gambling isn't dangerous.
Indeed.
But, of course, the other thing is that, nowadays you don't have to rifle through anybody's pockets. You just have to go through their phone. If you go through their phone, you find out everything you need to know.
Yeah.
You might find pictures on there that are of a deleterious nature.
Yeah.
You might find phone numbers. You might find text
embarrassing
messages.
nature even. You're
you
quite
might
right.
find all sorts of Google searches. In fact, I'm going to tell you about a story that we got coming in tonight about what people search for on the internet after midnight, and you might be surprised to know what some of the answers are. But much more to come. We'll be talking about colonising the moon as well in the next hour.
Yeah, good idea.
It's Porkyvision coming up. Good idea.
Yes, great idea. I'm up for that, definitely. Yeah,
I'm sure there'd be plenty of people who'd quite like to hear us doing a live broadcast. So we did the first live broadcast on the two mics from the moon. It'd be great, wouldn't it?
Hang on, what's that song? Who wrote it? Sting. You take big footsteps when you're on the moon. Yeah?
No, that's not quite the words, but I know what you
it
mean.
was.
Yeah, we'll play it later. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. I must read out a few tweets to you, Mr. Parry. Cav says, could you ask Porky if it's cheaper to bribe a hack to write nice things about you up north than it is down in London? I'm not quite sure what he's getting at.
No, I'm not sure what he's getting at there. What he's getting at there is because you have ridiculously, distorted a fair and accurate account of
your life.
A fair and accurate account of my visit to Newcastle recently. Your envy and malice is seeping out through your pores, and now you've tried to convince everybody that I had some gerrymandering role in producing a piece which was favourable to me.
It does seem very odd. Zobon says Porky's only concerned about the Porky Trinity, which is Mike, Porky, Parry, and nobody else in the world. # man of the people.
Yeah, well, I'm man of the people, and I think that you can only be man of the people if you have the independence to be able to say to others, no, I will not be influenced by you. I am an independent voice.
Right, and here's one from Christos. You might be able to help him out here. He says,
yes.
I don't want to mither. I don't know what it's mither.
Mither. Yeah.
But it's my birthday. Can Porky say happy birthday, Christos, on air? It would mean the world.
What's his name?
Christos.
Happy birthday, Christos. Hope you have a great day, pal. Remember, it only comes around once a year, so make the most of it. One of these days you won't want to celebrate your birthday, so celebrate this one now.
He says Borough did play at the BT Cellnet Riverside Stadium.
Oh, is that it? Yeah, OK.
Porky's wrong as usual.
No, I've got that right.
Well, I said, was it BT Cellnet? You said it wasn't.
Now, you were not understanding what I was saying about the razzmatazz which opened the Test match, OK?
Yeah, I wasn't.
So how come once again you are shown up by the true professionals in our business?
Like who?
Would you or would you not agree that Martin Samuel, the columnist in the Daily Mail, is one of the outstanding journalists journalists of our age.
I'd say he's a pretty good writer, yeah.
Thank you. And
but I don't agree with everything he says,
and
because he writes an opinionated column. And most opinionated columns, I don't slavishly follow every single word of it and go, oh, yes, Martin, you're brilliant. I think everything you write is amazing.
Yeah, well, this is not opinionated, this is fact. And this is in tomorrow morning's Daily Mail, OK? So it's Martin's column, Martin Samuel, chief sports writer, the Ashes Day one, his observations, OK? Right. First of all, there's a picture of all the players lined up with all these poor children standing there looking utterly bemused, and behind them a load of machines firing out rockets and all sorts of things, fireworks. There's red carpets all over the place. There's people waving flags around. I mean, it's a fiasco. And he goes on to say, Martin says, right, instead of getting on with the start of this test match, all the players were made to wait through an orgy of anthem singing and flag unfurling. An orgy of anthem singing and flag unfurling. There were fireworks, upwards of 50 soldiers on ceremonial duty, and by the time play started, it was hardly a shock that Adam Lyth did not make it out of the game's second over. When he got to the middle, his head must have been spinning. And it goes on to say, in his piece here, take the national anthems, OK? So here's a sporting event, take the national anthems. Not 2, as you would think, England-Australia, but 4. For England and, what's he saying here?
Wales, right?
For England and Australia, yes, you can have an anthem, but preceding it we heard from Wales, the host, their national anthem had to be played, and then we heard the hymn Jerusalem, which has somehow become the unofficial anthem of this team. Cricket's Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. On occasion, it can be powerful, even moving. Yesterday, it was just a blinking nuisance. We should have got on with the game.
So he didn't like it?
So the thing is...
So he didn't like it. You said that was about facts, OK? That wasn't about facts, that was about his opinion.
That was his opinion. My observation at the start of this show absolutely parallels the thinking process of one of the greatest newspaper columnists of our age. Does that prove something to you, Mike?
No,
does it prove to you that my powers of observation are at the highest possible level?
It proves to me
at the highest possible level.
It proves to me is you probably read that piece before the show started.
I did not.
And then now you're going to pretend that he agrees with you.
Utter rubbish.
That's the sort of thing you would do.
Utter rubbish. The newspapers weren't here when this show started, so I couldn't have done.
Well, that's what you say.
So I can tell you that for a fact.
That's what you say.
And it just shows that I'm completely in tune with the working man, with the cricket fan.
Do you know how much money Martin Samuel makes a year? You're going to call him a working man?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
How much is it?
Well, that would be unfair to tell our audience how much it is.
Well, it's in excess of 6 figures, isn't it?
Way in excess of 6 figures.
He's not a working man, really, is he?
I would say that you're looking here at, north of maybe £250,000 quid.
Right,
but
okay.
I don't really
tell anybody.
We don't want to give it away. But he's an outstanding talent and therefore should be paid a premium rate for his skills.
Yeah, but he writes an opinionated column, and I'm very happy that you find yourself in agreement with him. I happen to say to you that, it may well be the fireworks were over the top, but that's not what you were saying. You were talking about the children being taken out, and as far as I'm concerned, if children want to take part in these kinds of events, then I think they should be allowed to. And I don't think they are in any way traumatised by it, and I would disagree with you wholeheartedly.
I think it's all fancy dance stuff.
But it's interesting, isn't it, that you, on the one hand, are a traditionalist when it comes to cricket, right?
Yes.
But you're not a traditionalist when it comes to football, because what you've just said to me is you're more than happy for the rah-rah cheerleaders and the NFL to go all over White Hart Lane and the new Spurs Stadium.
No.
That to you is no problem at all. However, if anybody tries to introduce some kind of sort of razzmatazz to cricket, you're not in favour of it. So there's two positions. You can't possibly stride those two positions.
No, one is a commercially intelligent approach to the game to introduce more money into it. The second one is just a ridiculous, let's make it a more attractive spectacle. When in fact, what people really want to see is just get on with the game.
But isn't that in the end down to the TV companies and the fact that Sky have now bought the rights to the Ashes? And somebody was saying to me yesterday, in fact, that now the sort of the prelim and the build-up to these events is so massive because they have to fill all of their airtime with the fact that they're trying to sell this to people because they need subscribers, they need people to buy into it, so they make it into a showbiz event because that's what they do. That's commercial business.
No, I don't agree with that. I just think it's over the top, and I think that most people would agree with me that what I call the Christmas decorations surrounding a sporting event now are just ludicrous and ridiculous.
That may well be.
All the rockets firing off all over the place.
And you might well find that many people agree with you, and I might even agree with you about that. But as far as the kids are concerned, I think taking kids out on the field of play before a football match or before a cricket match is not a problem, and they don't mind it. Let's talk about Raheem Sterling, because he's on the back page of the Mirror again, where it says Rodgers and out.
Oh, we fed up and talked about Raheem Sterling.
Well, we are a bit, but I just thought we thought we should just mark it because I said at the top of the show, it seems to me
losing
that
the will to live with Raheem Sterling.
Yeah, but he's attempting to destroy Liverpool from within now, isn't he?
Well, I tell you what, the Mirror,
like Agent Sterling.
The Mirror have got the best story on him here because they've gone right for the jugular. They've said Rodgers and out. Six Sterling claims breakdown with managers why I'll never play for Liverpool again. Yeah. And this is written by two friends of ours, John Cross and Darren Lewis, together. And they say Raheem Sterling insists the complete breakdown in his relationship with boss Brendan Rodgers is the reason he wants to quit Liverpool. That in itself is interesting. The other interesting one is one that was pointed out in the last show when a chap came on from, I think he came on from the Daily Mail to review the papers, and that is that Berahino and Sterling agents split. Now, Saido Berahino is an up-and-coming star at West Brom, as you know, and has been drafted in the England squad towards the end of last season. He's decided that the chap who manages Raheem Sterling, Eddie Ward, absolutely right, maybe a problem for him, and he's decided to cut his ties with him.
He's parted company,
and he's going to find somebody else to represent him and manage him. I think that's a terrible indictment of the position in which Raheem Sterling finds himself taking advice. If a fellow professional of about the same age is saying, look, I'm washing my hands of this guy because I think the way that your situation's been handled is not good, and I don't want to find myself dragged into a huge controversy like that over what's basically a pay dispute.
Yeah, exactly, because, I mean, the news that we didn't reveal, which is also in the papers, is that Raheem Sterling yesterday called in sick. Didn't turn up for Liverpool's training camp.
That's right.
On the grounds that he was not feeling very well.
It's terrible.
And they actually ended up having to send somebody round to his house to see if he was all right.
Liverpool should have taken note of me some weeks ago, if not months ago. Once the echoing sound of, well, I want to move, came from Raheem Sterling, Liverpool should have taken the initiative. They said, we're going to grant you your move. First club or manager who knocks on our door and offers £35 million can have you. And we will put you up for sale and start an orderly queue here, and you can get lost. We only want people here who want to play for Liverpool. We don't want people who whinge and moan about their lot in life, even though we made them a millionaire within the first 2 months of playing for this football club.
Very true. Very true indeed. Lots more tweets and texts to read out. You can tweet us, of course, at the two mics. Don't forget Porkyvision's coming up a little bit later on in the show. You text us on 81089. You can tweet Mike Parry at Mike Parry A and myself at IROMG. Loads more coming up very shortly. We'll be talking about the moon.
Mike Parry 8.
Crazy, but that's how it goes. Millions of people living as ho-ho-hos. Yeah, but maybe.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. There will, of course, be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. Just follow us at the Two Mics. You'll find out when, usually around about 6.5 hours or so from now. Did you watch it in Wimbledon yesterday at all? I managed to catch a bit of the Andy Murray
I took in a bit of Andy Murray. I'm so impressed with his attitude to it this year. But the biggest game for me at Wimbledon takes place today.
Oh, yeah.
And that is the semi-final between Serena and Ms. Sharapova, who is the best-looking lady tennis player of all time. You'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
She certainly is a very good-looking young
Maria
woman.
Sharapova.
Yes.
Now, people might now think, oh, Porky, you're being sexist
well,
there.
You are, actually,
I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm just telling
You've never exhibited any interest in women's tennis at all, to me.
I am stating a fact.
You've never, ever exhibited any interest in women's tennis.
I'm stating a fact because I'm now going to develop the argument that to get on in life, you've got to have a degree of talent, but you also have to look the part. If you don't look the part, you won't get on in life,
well,
right?
You've done very well then, considering.
What do you mean?
Well, you don't look the part, exactly, unless your part is, Captain Birdseye or something.
Don't be utterly ridiculous.
Well, what part are you playing, exactly?
Listen.
What look are you kind of trying to culture
hang on, mate.
here?
Listen, when I was a thrusting young executive in Fleet Street and other places,
yes,
excuse me, I struck a very bold figure indeed in my dapper sort of.
Those suits that were too big for you?
No, those dapper Savile Row suits I used to wear and that sort of thing.
You never bought your suits at Savile Row. Don't talk absolute cobblers.
I didn't, but I mean...
No, so you call them Savile Row suits?
No, Savile Row is a term for, expensive, high-quality suits.
No, Savile Row is... No,
doesn't actually mean they're made in Savile Row.
No, it's a description of bespoke... tailor-made suits, actually.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
Not just expensive suits.
Yeah.
You had your suits tailor-made, did you?
I had one made to measure.
Did you?
But the others I didn't bother because it took too long. So I just bought them and then
too long.
No, then I had them altered. I had them altered.
Well, that's not the same as having a made-to-measure suit.
To fit perfectly.
Taking it down to dry cleaners to get the hems taken up is not making it custom made.
Well, I made sure they look perfectly good. Now, what I was going to say is Maria Sharapova is the highest earning female athlete in the world. but she's not the highest achieving female athlete.
she's not.
That is Serena Williams.
Right.
And Serena Williams does not earn as much as Maria Sharapova.
Right.
Why is that? Because Maria Sharapova comes over as the glamour girl of the sport.
Yeah, that's true. And so she's got more endorsement money coming, is that what you're saying?
Literally a tall, lithe, leggy, blonde girl.
Yeah.
And that, again, is not being sexist. That is just an accurate description of what she's like. Whereas Serena, I think, is seen as the ultimate professional. You see
She's
what I mean?
the ultimate female athlete, I suppose you might say.
Ultimate female athlete, utter professional, dedicated only to the game, where Maria has half an eye on her image. Serena doesn't seem to care really about her image at all.
Not too
She cares
much,
only
no.
about winning tennis. Right. And I think the respective approaches to that side of their lives has resulted in Sharapova being a more marketable, if you see what I mean, more marketable individual.
Yeah, but it's not in the end, is it, a very kind of big rivalry in the sense of the actual sport itself? Because Serena Williams always beats everybody so much.
Hang on, I've got the facts here. Of their 19 meetings during the 11-year rivalry they've had, Serena has won 17 times.
Well, exactly, so it's not much of a rivalry.
Yeah, but hang on, but the major
17-2.
The major one she lost was the 2004 Wimbledon final.
She did lose the final.
When Sharapova was 16, she beat Serena, but she's only ever beaten her once in the 11 years since. Again, in the 11 years since.
Well, that's what I
then.
mean. So it probably won't be that much of an actual tennis match. I mean, I sat and watched. I think I told you after the French. I can't remember. I think if I watched one of the French men's semi-finals, which was great. I then watched the French women's final, and it was Serena beating somebody, in a way which just was not even really competitive, and so it wasn't very enjoyable to watch. Actually,
yes.
It's like, I mean, if you watch a men's game and it's all very one-sided, that's not very enjoyable.
No,
either.
I agree. Yeah.
So I can't imagine this is going to be particularly enjoyable. But you're going to sit down and watch it, are you?
Oh, definitely. I think at some stage Sharapova's got to win. But I'd love Sharapova to win Wimbledon again. I think it's fantastic because I want Wimbledon to remain the premier tennis tournament on the face of the earth, and that can only happen if you get a variety of winners. Look, Serena Williams, we have massive respect for. She's won it 5 times. Yeah. She wins it again. It becomes. I mean, I didn't like Pete Sampras winning it year after year after year.
No, it's boring.
It is boring. I totally agree. And Sharapova will bring a new element of a new fission of glamour to it. And I'm sure a lot of people would like to say, look at that, 11 years on. Because it's always a great story when somebody goes 11 years between victories, they come back and do it again.
Yeah.
Snooker players often do that, don't they?
I imagine in tennis that's less likely, though. I imagine the odds will be very much against Sharapova, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but as Bobby Charlton once said, you can only score goals when you strike the ball. He said the chances of scoring a goal are better when you're striking the ball at the goal, and therefore the chances of Sharapova beating Serena Williams again improve every time she's drawn against her again.
Well,
because after 11 years, it's time.
According to Serena Williams' coach, a man by the name of Patrick Muratoglu, he says it's not really a rivalry at all, and he uses that statistic of yours, 17 times that Serena's beaten her, and only 2 times that Sharapova's beaten Serena.
Despite that fact, Sharapova has a bigger fortune of £125 million. But Sharapova is said to be now a very distant woman from the rest of the people on the tennis circuit.
She's like a Cristiano Ronaldo kind of scenario. Like, do you remember when they went to play in Northern Ireland? Cristiano Ronaldo from Portugal.
Yes.
Took his own plane.
Did he?
So the rest of the team were kind of, going back to the hotel to stay the night.
Is that right?
And he had his private jet pick him up at Belfast Airport and fly him back to Madrid.
Well, good luck to him. I think if you're that good in life and you've made that much of an impact on the world, then you deserve to be able to run it along your own lines. Sharapova apparently doesn't like mixing with the other players, as you quite rightly say. Fortune £125 million. But there is an added spice here, and that is that Sharapova's current boyfriend, Grigor Dimitrov, who apparently is the heartthrob of the men's circuit. Did you know that?
Dimitrov, is he?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. What do you mean you don't know? Do you not follow tennis?
Well, I don't know who the heartthrob is because
Grigor Dimitrov, who was, I think he was like 11th seed or something at Wimbledon, is now Sharapova's boyfriend.
Oh, right, okay.
But used to be Serena's boyfriend, apparently.
Really?
Yeah, apparently, yeah. So there's a bit of rivalry there as well.
You're up to date on all this gossip, aren't you?
I like to keep myself abreast of things because that's the way you get ahead in our business, Mike. Having the facts at your fingertips.
Yes.
You wouldn't know about having facts at your fingertips because usually your fingertips are just dipping themselves into a kebab to stuff into your fat gob to keep yourself nourished during the energetic, expansive shows that we do. because you can't take the pace as well as I can. Simple as that. Now,
Lee says this. Porky often claims not to have said something that he mentioned on the previous night, e.g.
Right.
Council House scumbags. He does this a lot.
I never
Has he
said
got
that.
dementia?
Never said that.
Secondly, from Jim in Coventry. Dear Mr. Graham, could you get Mr. Parry to do his own version of a dictionary so I can look up some of the words he keeps saying, because I've never heard of half of them. He is bonkers, but it's a great show.
Well, look, I don't need to respond to that. People, generally speaking, because I'm man of the people, I communicate with them at street-level speak.
Is that right?
Yeah. Now, listen, there's something I need to talk to you about, right?
Yeah, go on.
This is interesting. How are we going to get ourselves an invitation to the most sought-after party to be at over the next 2 years? And
Which one is that?
It's at Buckingham Palace. It's the Queen's 90th birthday party. And
the Queen's 90th birthday party?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I want to go to the Queen's 90th birthday
Well,
party.
I do. We've got to be there, because if you're anybody, you're going to be there, right? And 10,000 people are going to be there at a garden party.
What do you mean? I don't care about this kind of thing. If I get an invitation, I'd probably go.
Well, I think we've got to work on it.
I'm not going to try and get an invitation.
I think we've got to work on it. Because I do believe that we need, from here, from TalkSport, some representation to the Queen's 90th birthday party, and I believe that I'm the person to represent us. So I'm going to approach the management and say, I need your support to get on the case, OK?
Right. OK, well, how do you suggest we go about doing this then?
Well, I think we're going to have to sort of start tapping up some of the royal equerries and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
What about a couple of the royal correspondents that we know?
Yeah, well, we start there, definitely. We start there, yeah. Who are the royal correspondents these days?
Well, I'm not going to give you any names out, am I?
Let me see.
No,
I know who's very good.
Names out.
That Tom Bradby from ITV.
Don't give his name out.
No, he's all right. He started as a royal correspondent.
Is he not their political editor now?
Yes, but you know he's going to be soon. He's going to be the sole anchor of News at 10 on ITV.
Yeah, right. So he's no longer the royal guy then?
No, but he started off as the royal guy, and I tell you what, he made such an impression that William and Kate gave him an exclusive interview when they first announced they were getting married.
No, indeed.
And
what I'm saying is he's not the guy to go through, though, is he?
Well, yeah, I think he is.
I'd be a bit uncomfortable.
He's one of us. He's a broadcaster now.
I'm very uneasy about this attitude of yours that you go around sort of, begging for an invitation
I'm not
to something.
begging to anybody.
Well, that's what you're suggesting.
No,
you're
not
saying
at all.
that we should sort of grease the not necessarily figuratively speaking.
I think we should be there.
Grease the palm of somebody. Why should we?
Well,
why do you want to go to a party where there are 10,000 other people?
Well, I think there's a reputation to be earned there. Just imagine in a couple of years' time to say, oh yes, the Queen's 90th, yes, I was there, Buckingham Palace.
Well, hang on. The royal lunch, it says here, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be held on June the 12th.
Right.
Okay. It'll be one of the hosted events to honour the Queen's official birthday in June, rather than her actual birthday on April the 21st next year.
Yeah.
And they're going to have an invitation going out to 10,000 charity workers to sit in the mall and have a picnic.
Yes, that's it.
It's not very intimate, is it?
Well, I mean, at least you can say you were there, you know what I mean?
Why?
Actually, I wouldn't want to go to that thing.
No, you don't want to go to that, because that's with the ordinary people.
Well, that's like being at a street party. I'm not interested in that.
No, you don't want to go to that.
No, I'm interested in going to the Buckingham Palace garden party, which what's the word I'm looking for? The better associated members of society will get to.
Oh, right. So it's kind of a snob value thing. So you don't want to hang about with the charity workers.
No. It's
you
not
want to hang around
I don't have any snob value.
You want to hang around with all the lords and ladies and call them, my lordship and all that sort of thing.
Well, I've got a bit of an issue with charity at the moment. As you know, I'm not sure where I should be donating my charitable money. In fact, I made a big donation to a local charity this week, actually.
You told us, yeah.
Well, no, it was another one, actually. But I don't
What, you mean another one apart from the horse one?
Yes, that's right.
Well, what's this one about, then?
Oh, well, I can't tell you about it.
Why not?
I don't want to.
How much money are we talking about?
About another 250 quid. But I don't.
250 quid?
Yeah.
Well, that's not very sizable.
What do you mean?
Well, you call that a sizable donation.
Well, hang on. When did you last give 250 quid to a charity?
Well, I don't talk about the money I give
when
to charity.
When did you last give 250 quid to a charity?
Last month, actually.
Last month?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Which one was it?
Well, I do it every year. There's one particular person who doesn't like to get publicity for it. But he does something called live on £1 a day for a month to try and raise money for an African charity.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it does. It goes on every year.
You made this up?
No, I haven't.
Right, so that's £250, was it?
250 quid every year I give him, yeah.
Once a year?
Once a year,
OK.
yeah.
Now, could you just remind us how much your hotel room cost when you went to Piers Morgan's party, please?
Why should I remind you of that?
Because
I've never
I'd
told you.
I
never told you.
Oh, yes, you have.
I told you, but I haven't reminded everybody else about it.
Well, I'm going to tell them if you don't tell them.
Why should you tell them?
Because I'm going to put your hypocrisy into perspective.
OK.
So you give £250 once a year to some charity for a bloke to live on £1 a day, yeah? And your hotel room, because you went to Piers Morgan's party, dressed as a clown, to mix with a hoi polloi.
No, dressed as Great Gatsby, actually.
To mix with a hoi polloi.
I thought you'd moved on from this.
And rub shoulder. Oh, but it's coming back. It's coming back. Because your hotel room that night cost you £300.
Yeah, it did.
There you go, folks. an open admission, £300 for a hotel room for one night after attending Piers Morgan's party, and
Look how happy he is.
And an annual,
He's like a deranged little fool.
And an annual donation to charity of £250.
No, that's
what
not.
a bum!
No, that's not my annual contribution.
What a
You
bum.
asked me when the last amount of money I gave to charity, and I just told you.
Yeah, you only do it once a year.
You don't know that.
I know that.
No, you don't.
I know that.
You don't know anything.
I know that. I wonder how much the champagne was at the £300 a night hotel. I bet he spent double there than he gives to charity a year. It's a disgrace.
No. Pathetic little bearded man. This is Talk Sport.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
A terrific performance.
Turn of pace and eye for goal.
Shout about it.
Now, because Dr. Doug Platter is
Yes.
a space advocate from California. I'm not quite sure what a space advocate is, but we'll ask him about that. But I don't know if you saw the story a little bit earlier today about NASA, who say that they want to create some kind of a lab up on
Very
on the
good
moon.
idea.
A science lab, right?
Yes.
And they're talking about how they could turn this crater into an oasis of warm sunlight surrounded by a desert of freezing cold darkness. So let's talk to Dr. Platter and find out what they plan to do. Dr. Platter, very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Why, thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us. How realistic is NASA about doing this, and how likely is it that it could happen?
Well, the article that you're referring to is not really so much about establishing a crude base as it is to explore the permanently shadowed craters on the moon to be able to identify the source of water there, which we now know that there's actually ice in these permanently shadowed craters of the moon.
Right. Okay. Because I mean, obviously, when we call ourselves mere mortals, get very excited about colonising the moon and going and living there, and as the Earth gets more and more crowded, is that a possibility? We always kind of newspaper articles and things always encourage us to think that maybe after a fleet of robots have got up there, we could actually end up maybe sending people up there to live for a while.
Well, I think that's actually quite realistic. It depends on the exact path which is taken most likely with the next administration, because the current administration, Obama's administration, has sort of taken the moon off of the path for NASA astronauts. But certainly many other countries are quite interested in it, and I believe that there actually is a pathway to be able to settle the moon, which would be relatively low expense. And I really think that the things that we spoke about in the past in terms of like lunar hotels, I think that is actually quite realistic.
Doctor, I think this is a fascinating story, but just a couple of questions here. Firstly, I thought America already had colonised the moon. They're the only country that's been on the surface of the moon. The American flag has been planted there. I mean, in terms of historical conquering of new territories, it's already America's, isn't it?
Well, no, not actually.
I think the Russians would disagree, wouldn't they?
Well, the Russians haven't been on the moon. The Russians tried to crash a craft onto the moon hours before the Americans landed, and it crashed and nothing happened. It just broke down.
No, they actually had two rovers that roved around on the moon, quite successful, but they never did send one of their cosmonauts to the surface of the moon. No.
Exactly, they never got a man on it. That's question one. Now, question two is, it only actually takes about 5 or 6 days to get to the moon. When you think that the Pilgrim Fathers spent 4 months sailing across the Atlantic to the New World, America, it would make absolute sense to colonise the moon and send, a shuttle a month up to the moon too. It must be absolutely possible to build the equivalent of Space Station Zebra, something that we set up these days in the Arctic Circle. It must be absolutely possible to build one of those on the moon and man it year round.
Oh, I think it's really quite possible, and I would say not just a scientific base, but I truly think that we could actually establish really the first permanent foothold off Earth, and we could actually have people living there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as we've seen, as you mentioned there, that NASA's budget's been cut by the Obama administration, and maybe they haven't got the best amount of money to try and do something like this. I mean, is the future of the kind of thing you're talking about, Dr. Platter, going to lie in kind of private hands, and is it going to be private money that kind of colonises the moon?
It's really difficult for private companies to turn a profit and have return on investment with a venture such as this. I think the secret is public-private programs in which NASA puts up some initial money, works as an anchor tenant, but it's private companies that are paid to develop that capability. and then those companies serve both NASA, international countries, as well as beginning to transition towards purely commercial ventures.
We've got to colonise somewhere, Doc, haven't we? Because Stephen Hawking, the doctor who was subject of the film, what was the film called, Mike? Was it called?
What, the one that's just come out?
Yes.
Oh, I can't remember.
It was the guy just won an Oscar, The Meaning of Everything or something. But anyway, you know Dr. Stephen Hawking is the internationally renowned physicist. He's made it clear that unless man goes and colonises a planet somewhere, the planet Earth will not sustain the expanding growth of the human population for more than about another couple of centuries.
Well, I think we're going to probably plateau in terms of world population, probably about 2070, something like that. But frankly, I would end up agreeing with him because I think in the development of biotech, nanotech, self-replicating chemicals, and even accelerating artificial intelligence, I think that it is, in my opinion, unlikely that we'll get to the end of the century without individuals having extremely powerful technologies in their hands. And I think it would be prudent to be able to have a base off Earth that could be able to continue humanity if the worst things happen.
Sure. And, Doc, surely we've got to improve our technology so that it doesn't take 5 or 6 days to get to the moon anymore. We should be able to do it in 5 or 6 hours, shouldn't we? I mean, surely we can... I've read only this week about plans for the US Air Force to build a fighter aircraft that travels at 20 times the speed of sound. Well, if you can get that on Earth, surely in space, where there's no resistance, you can get the similar sort of deal. And, already Richard Branson is trying to get a commercial operation going in space. Surely space travel has got to take a gigantic leap into the future and become more efficient, hasn't it?
It typically takes actually 3 days to get to the moon.
3 days.
That's what it was in the Apollo program. I don't think 3 days is too long. I think from a radiation standpoint, the crew can survive it. So I don't think we need to change that technology. What we do need is we need reusable lunar landers that can be fueled using the ice on the moon. Once we do that, it not only opens up access to the moon, but frankly, it opens up the entire inner solar system.
OK, when all that moon rock came back from the very first moon landing, Doc, did we find out that it is sustainable material? I mean, could you build a building on the moon from the resources of the rock and the stuff that the moon's made of?
Well, initially, I really like the idea of inflatable habitats.
Yeah, good
I did
idea.
some calculations earlier today. A single medium-sized lunar lander could deliver an inflatable habitat that would give about 30,000 square feet, or about 11 to 12 typical size homes. So I think that was the easiest way to get started. And then we can look into the distant future in terms of, very large structures using local resources.
But isn't that a bit dangerous if it's an inflatable structure, like an air house?
No,
What do you know? What do you know about it?
Well, I know a lot about it.
You don't know anything about it.
I know a lot about it.
No, let me ask the Doc.
Do you think the Doc is daft enough to say we'll put an inflatable building on the moon, but it might get pierced by a meteorite?
Well, it could
This
get
man's
pierced.
an expert.
Yeah.
The Doc is an expert.
All right, well, hang on.
You're just a dumbbell.
Well, let me ask him. Isn't it possible that could be affected by not necessarily, a pinprick, but it might actually, there would be damage to the inside atmosphere of that air house if there was a problem?
Well, it's a good question, but what I'd say is these things would be made out of Kevlar, and they would be placed in an existing crater, and then telerobots would cover it with lunar dirt. And so it would be protected against not only micrometeorites, but radiation and also thermal changes.
Yeah, no.
And what about this particular NASA plan, which I don't think is looking like it's going to cost an awful lot of money? They're suggesting that they're going to send up a lot of robots to kind of collect data and to build this kind of space lab, as it were. I mean, it's how far away are we from doing that?
I think 2019 NASA actually has a plan of having a rover to characterize the ice, which is critically important. And then once we know the nature of the ice, then we can send larger robots to harvest the ice and turn it into propellant. And from there, we're moving forward.
Okay. Now, Doc, looking right to the future, because this is what we have to do on this show, and that's what your business is all about. They always said you could not build a bridge where the Golden Gate Bridge is. You could not build a tunnel through the mountains in Europe that connects countries, and in Japan as well. When are we going to be able to literally build a bridge between Earth and the Moon? Because that's got...
A bridge?
A bridge.
What, you mean an actual bridge?
I mean a bridge between the Earth and the Moon.
Ridiculous.
No, I mean a bridge in the form of a tunnel between the two planets.
A bridge in the form of a tunnel?
Yeah, surely he's got to come, hasn't it, Doctor?
Well, I tend to think of it as a sort of transcontinental railroad where we have a transportation system that can get from here to there. There's discussion about space elevators and things like that, but I think in the near term it's probably just going to be reusable lunar landers and in-space craft.
But if we had a tunnel, literally a tunnel...
No, you would want what you would want. It would be some kind of transportation device, would you not, Dr. Platter, which would be not the sort of thing that you or I can imagine, like something from science fiction.
No, that's what I mean.
Like a space elevator, like you were saying, like you go into somewhere...
A gravitational pull.
And it transports you, but it's not an actual bridge or a tunnel, is it?
But it would be, because then you could have traffic coming both ways, you see, and defend it. But, of course, you haven't got the imagination to think of things like that,
No, I
Mike,
have.
because you're basically rooted in the 19th century, whereas the Doc and I are looking forward to the 23rd century.
Is that right?
Yes.
Well, you won't be here then, unfortunately.
Well, I may be, because we're talking about the afterlife. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know where I'll be in the 23rd century.
Right. Well,
you don't even know where heaven is.
Well, if you'd let the doctor get a word in edgeways. Doctor, could you tell us what... you call yourself a space advocate. What's your view on what's actually out there in space in terms of anything that might be malevolent?
Extremely rude question.
Well, there's a lot of different opinions. I mean, I tend to have a biblical opinion, so I think, there's angels and things like this. But there's something called the Fermi's paradox, which seems to ask the question of, if life is so common in our galaxy, why aren't they here? Because they should have had plenty of time. So I think it's a really deep, profound question that there's a lot of potential answers that we just don't know right now.
Right. Okay. So it's an open kind of world out there, really. Dr. Platter, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much
Platter,
indeed.
Space advocate from California, very sensible man.
Thanks, Doc.
When he was able to speak, because you were rather rude there, shouting over him.
Well, hang on, you were rather rude, saying, come on, you describe yourself as a space advocate. You're extremely dismissive and rude. And
that's not how I speak.
And I sometimes.
That's not how I speak.
I sometimes cringe
what do
a
you
little bit.
sometimes do?
Sometimes cringe a little bit, being on the same broadcasting platform as yourself, when you're clearly so ignoramuously dismissive and disrespectful to our guests.
Here's one from Terence. We can finish it off with this. He's texted into 81089. Mike Parry, the hyacinth bouquet of the broadcasting airwaves. I think that's about right.
Oh, really? Really? What does that mean? What does that mean?
This morning, here's Jim from Coventry says, Mr. Parry, you could go to the Queen's Garden Party as a court jester because you are a clown. Keep up the good work.
I'll take that.
I think he means that nicely, though. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you very much
Let's have
indeed.
a quick word with Michael, who's a Spurs fan up in North London, to see if he agrees with me that this is a slippery slope for Tottenham. Michael, very good morning to you.
Morning, sir. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Very well. What's your view on the stadium scenario?
Could I just ask you a quick question? You had a recording from Mr. Levy there. Was that part of an interview you gave to TalkSport? Was it something earlier? Or?
I believe it was something
he said.
I believe it was something either that was on the Spurs website or that was part of a press conference.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I just caught your view that it might be a bit of a slippery slope, financially, or what were you thinking?
Well, in the sense that they're basically inviting another sport into the stadium, right? They're inviting. He's referring to football as soccer. He's clearly playing to an American market, and if you think that this is only going to be 2 times a year, and then I think that's wrong. I think what they're going to do is they're going to have a franchise team which will be based at the new Spurs ground. I think they'll call the new Spurs ground something completely different, and it will become very Americanised. I just don't think that's a great idea.
Well, I remember when the plan has been a few years now, as you know. The plans for the new Spurs Stadium first started coming about, and there wasn't anything mooted about American participation in it, with NFL, etc. Then, was it a few months ago, maybe a bit more, they started talking about this stadium, and it seemed sort of like almost futuristic pie in the sky, with this business of combining the NFL ground with pitch, with the soccer pitch. Raises a lot of interesting questions. I don't think it's a terrible thing. The NFL is pretty popular, as I understand. I'm not a follower of it myself, but pretty popular in this country. It's succeeding in Wembley. I don't think it's going to diminish the soccer, the season.
Why do you keep saying soccer, Michael? You keep saying soccer.
Well, I do say so. Okay, you mean? You see, I'm wrong to use that term.
Well, soccer's not an English word for football, is it? Football's a word for football.
True, but I was trying to distinguish it from NFL because they call that.
See, the slippery slope has already started. You've
started
calling it soccer.
Verbally, verbally maybe, but not verbally, so conceptually, but not in reality. I mean, not in practice.
No, Now, Michael, you live in Finchley, right? That's North London. It's a bit further up the road.
You
on the other
give away his location.
Excuse me, on the other side of the North Circular to Haringey, where Spurs is based. My broadcasting colleague tonight, Michael Graham, has described Haringey as some sort of shanty-town slum.
Lies. Do not tell lies.
Some kind
Don't
of
tell lies.
Shanty-town slum.
Do not tell lies.
And I want to apologise on behalf
Do not tell lies. I read out somebody's text. Okay? I did not describe Haringey as anything of the sort. Don't jump the gun.
You had no need to read that text out, and it was a disgraceful thing to do to describe people who are TalkSport listeners living in those sort of circumstances. So I want to apologise on that half, Michael. But it brings a more serious point, and that is the location of Spurs' new ground, which is in fact where Spurs' old ground is, going to be an issue for people?
In what sense?
Well, in the sense that we all know where Wembley is, and we all know it's been established for so many years. We all know where Arsenal is. They're better areas than Haringey.
Are you saying Haringey's not a good area?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
I thought Haringey was more Arsenal and Tottenham was Tottenham. No.
Well, Edmonton, I thought, was more Spurs territory.
Should we get the map out?
No, it is more Edmonton, but as Mike Graham has decided they're in Haringey, we need to talk about them. But the point is, the communication links to the Spurs ground are not good.
Right, exactly. And there was a lot of, it would appear, only can hear what I see what I read in the press and so on, there seemed to be controversy at the time because the Spurs board were trying to get commensurate backing for those links to be improved.
That's right. They wanted a new tube station, in fact, to be built up to the ground.
And I don't think that's happened, has it?
No, it hasn't, and that's not part of the package.
Yeah.
No.
And people are telling me, the plans for Spurs' new ground are well advanced and ahead of schedule. That can't be the case, can it? Because they've had that row with that little silver melting company for years and years and years.
That's right, yeah. I'm not sure if that's been sorted out yet either.
I think it has. It's just been sorted out.
Finally, yeah. Michael, thanks very much indeed for your call. You said that I've decided it's in Haringey, right? Leader of the Haringey Council, Claire Kober, said this. It's horrendous news that the NFL wants to come to Tottenham, joining Spurs in bolstering our borough's reputation for world-class sport.
Excellent.
So it's not my invention that Haringey is the council.
I never said there was a problem with it. I said it's more popularly known as Edmonton, the area that it's in. Right. OK, that's all you need to know.
The auspices of Haringey Council.
Yeah, OK, good. I'm glad to hear that.
And I wish you would stop this ridiculous and long-running kind of attempt to mislead people about things that I've said.
You're very sensitive about it, aren't you?
I'm sensitive about it, yeah, because I don't like you telling lies on air.
I'm not telling lies.
I don't think it's a good idea.
I'm merely repeating.
People will see through it.
I'm merely repeating to the audience, who themselves are intelligent people, what you actually said, and you said it with relish.
No,
you read out a comment from somebody who was slagging off the area around Tottenham's ground, and you read it out with relish because you're basically a social snob.
Even if I did read it out with relish, that's still not the same as me branding Haringey a terrible place, which is what you were attempting to portray, which was wrong.
Yeah,
so you can take it back if you wish, you can apologise if you wish, or you can move on.
Well, I think we'll just move on because, I'm fed up of talking about things where you're trying to, protest your innocence, even though it's obvious you're not innocent. Did you know that more people are getting married again than ever 40 years after the start of the decline of marriage? Did you know that?
What, you mean getting married to different people or marrying the same person?
No, it's... we've been through a phase for the last 40 years, that's what I'm saying, of, the sort of the old Earth Mother type approach, cohabitation. Yeah. Why do you need to get married? Oh, marriage is just a bit of paper, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the sanctity of marriage is now becoming more and more popular again. I think people are finding out that as the world becomes a more dangerous place, and as it becomes a more unsure existence that we all live in, more and more people are going to get married.
You don't think it might be a financial incentive that they've got? Because if you're married now, I think you get more of a tax break than if you're actually cohabiting.
You don't get much of a tax break. You're talking about a few $100 a year.
Yeah, I know.
It's not worth getting married for.
A few $100 a year is quite a lot of money.
I wouldn't dash around now.
I know that for you that's not much, but for some people it is.
I wouldn't dash around now trying to find the first Mrs. Parry on the basis, go get married, where's the first Mrs. Parry? I could save myself £450 a year. I mean,
really? Well, you go shopping and buy things for discount prices. You like looking for bargains. Why wouldn't you? Well, every little counts, doesn't it?
But the problem is, Mike, £450 a year would only get me one room for one night and half another night at the hotels you stay in. When you go to lavish parties attended by the hoi polloi at Piers Morgan's house.
The hoi polloi is not correct.
Yeah, it is.
You don't have to worry about spending money in big hotels like that because you don't get invited to those kind of parties.
I could go to any party I wanted to if I wanted to.
Well, apparently you can't get to the Queen's one either.
Well, that's a very special party. party, and I haven't even started working on that yet, so we'll have to see, won't we?
All right.
And you'll be coming to Spurs, won't you? Because we've been invited by our friend
No,
John.
I told you I won't be here.
What do you mean you won't be
I'll be on holiday.
No, I think you'll be back that day.
No, I won't be.
I think you will be.
No, I'll be on holiday.
I don't think you will be.
Why don't you take the executive producer, who's a Spurs fan?
I think, I take him and give him free drink and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, why not? That's the reward for all the hard work he's put in, trying to save you from saying the wrong thing on air.
I'm not sure that'd be a very satisfactory solution,
Really?
to be honest. You know what I mean?
That's not very nice.
Well, I mean, David, these things happen, I'm afraid. It's all a question about faces fitting and all that kind of stuff.
I see.
You know what I mean?
Oh, right, okay.
But anyway, that's by the by.
Yeah, no, it's very kind of you to invite me, but I'm afraid
Yes.
I'll have to decline it because I just won't be able to go.
Yeah, okay, yeah, all right. Well, you say
Are you going
so.
to do this thing about I've got feelings and I'm going to say
No. It's just that I put myself out sometimes to make sure that I help you out.
I know you do.
In your situation.
But unfortunately, I have other commitments. I realise that it comes as a great surprise to you, but I have a family that I have to look after, and sometimes I have to spend time with them.
Right, now then, let me tell you, in 2011, because I've talked to you about marriage, right?
Yeah.
Married men and women were almost a minority in England and Wales. 50.7% of all those who lived together were married, with the other 49.3% not. However, last year, 51.2% of people over the age of 16 were found to have tied the knot. And the Office for National Statistics says the share of the population that is married has been stabilising over the last 3 years.
Right.
That means more and more people are getting married again. That's
Well,
a good thing.
there must be
That's
a
good
reason
thing.
for it. But, I mean, the divorce rate isn't going down, is it? So the chances are that the divorce rate then will continue to be high. So most of those people who will marry will probably, 50% of them will end up getting divorced.
Well, funny enough, although you might not have thought of this, you might have thought that it's, the world's a less stable place now, so people bond together with marriage and all that. But a guy called James Brown, who specialises in prenuptial agreements, says there's absolutely no doubt that a court ruling in favour of prenuptial contracts back in 2010 has had an effect. The rise in the proportion of married couples coincides with the lessons of the ruling that was taken then. And people now see that they can protect their assets when they go into marriage.
So is he saying more people are having those kinds of agreements drawn up?
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Not over romantic.
There's a lot of people, I mean, quite often it's one of those questions that comes in on Ask Porky, but I think we haven't asked it for a while, because a lot of people have asked if you were to get married, would you have a prenuptial agrement on the basis that you have a lot to protect? Because there are some people who think that that's one of the reasons, that's one of the things that stops you from getting married.
No. There aren't some people who think that. You think that, and you've put that poisonous idea
there are people
into the minds of millions of our listeners.
There are some people who think that.
You go around blithely saying, the reason that old Porky never got married is he's too worried about losing all his money and his assets.
I think there is some truth to that.
To a woman if he marries her and it doesn't work out.
Are you saying that's not true?
Well, it's wicked, that. It's a wicked denunciation of my my moral standing in life. Wicked.
So you wouldn't have a prenuptial agreement then?
No, I wouldn't, no.
Really?
Well, look, if I decide to get married now, it would be my first and last marriage. So what would be the point of a prenuptial agreement?
Well, because you might lose everything after 5 years.
Well,
you'd end up living in a shack or something.
No, I would never live in a shack, believe me. I'd save at least one of the properties that I own to make sure that if I needed a bolt hole to get away from, I would. In fact, I'll tell you what I would do. If I did get married, I would have a bolt hole anyway.
Would you?
Yeah.
What, you mean one that the missus didn't know about?
Yeah, exactly.
That's not a very good way to start out.
No. I mean, now you would say, you take your mistress there and all that kind of stuff.
No, that's not what I would say.
It wouldn't be for that. It would sometimes.
No, a place of solace where you could be on your own.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
I think that's a very good idea.
Sometimes I would say to her, "Oh, look, darling, got a job now. I'm going to do a show with Mike or something like that. Going to be away for a couple of days, and I'd go and stay down on the coast in the beach resort that I'd buy and chill out for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. So marriages often break up because of the proximity of the two people in the marriage to each other.
Some people say, actually, one of the great reasons for successful marriages is to have sort of separate parts of the house. But not everybody can afford to have a big enough house to do that.
You should. You have
separate bathrooms.
Separate bathrooms, definitely, and separate socialising rooms, so that your
socialising rooms.
Yeah, well, your room could be your den. Your den could be
bladderation areas.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Your den could be set up with huge screens to watch the football.
What about a separate rogering area as well?
Well, it depends who you're rogering. If you're rogering each other, you wouldn't need a separate area, would you? You could have a communal rogering area. However, if you decided that the invitees were coming for rogerisation, then then I suppose you would.
Well,
you wouldn't need separate areas. Yeah, but I mean that would have to be one of these open marriages.
That would,
it?
which are never very successful.
Exactly.
As we said, they don't work at all well. Now, coming up in the next hour, we've got Porkyvision. So I don't know if you want to give away any kind of hints as to what you'll be telling us about what you've been watching this week, or would you rather keep it under your hat for the moment?
What?
Porky? What, have you not been listening?
Yes.
Just say about Porkyvision.
Yes, Porkyvision, yes.
What are you going to be doing?
Yeah, I know, right.
You give us a little taster,
No.
It's what we call throwing ahead to the next hour.
No, I think it should be a surprise for the
It's going to be a surprise.
It's
going to be a great surprise. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics, and we've actually managed to snare Ben Fletcher, the newsreader, because he's just got married, and we were just talking about marriage and all that. Let me just read you this from Ben.
Yeah.
How amusing to hear Porky proclaiming on the sanctity of marriage, etc.,
yes.
whereby by his own frequent admission, he spent much of his life in relationships with married women. How typically hypocritical of the man. He has zero integrity and zero credibility.
But that was their choice, not mine. All I was doing was providing another branch of the social services.
Yes.
Now, Ben, listen, mate, thanks for hanging around here, because, look, there's a couple of aspects of marriage here which I've got to get cleared up with you, and in your newly married position, you're perfect to respond. First of all, the traditional 2-week honeymoon in tropical paradise is becoming a thing of the past. A survey suggests newly married couples are deciding to spend their money on setting up life, not going on a great holiday. But you actually went on a very exotic honeymoon, didn't you?
I went to the Maldives, for 11 nights, where we didn't think 10 days was enough. 2 weeks was going to be just that little bit too expensive, so we went for 11 nights. We worked it out to the pound. I don't think it's a thing in the past. I mean, everyone's got different priorities, haven't they?
Yeah.
Luckily for us, we sorted our own property out, and we thought, well, stuff it, let's go and enjoy ourselves. And people don't get like gift lists anymore, really.
Yeah.
If you live together, you don't need loads of towels.
No,
and
you don't need a toaster, do you?
You don't need 20 toasters. So
well, unless you're going to have some experience in the afterlife.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
and then they all blow up, and then you need a new one the next day. But no, you're absolutely right. OK, that's great. So you don't regard it as a waste of money. You regard it as a great stepping stone on the first rung of the ladder of married life.
Absolutely.
That was a bit complicated.
It was a bit complicated, but I knew what you meant.
I followed you there.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the next one is, and this, I don't think this is typical of yourself, but it's typical of a couple. You need $72,000 now as a deposit on a house when you decide to get married. That's about the average that you need.
That seems very high.
That's $72,000.
Well, what's the average property price that we're talking about? And you can probably work it out mathematically. That probably sounds about right. That's everything, though, isn't it? Because it's not. You don't just need a deposit. You need your legal fees. You need your stamp duty. There was a period about 5 years ago when Gordon Brown abolished that, didn't he? One of the few good things I think he did.
Yeah.
And that certainly helped us out way back when. But I think 72 grand sounds about right.
Yeah.
And where does that? If you're renting in central London, for example, where does that sort of money come from?
Well, it
You've got
doesn't
to save every single penny.
No, it doesn't.
Or stay at home for a bit longer, like I did.
I've got nieces and nephews, right, whose only hope of buying a place in London is to get a 120 grand loan from their parents just to put it down as a deposit on an apartment, because even then you've got to earn enough money to be able to pay off a mortgage to balance up the value of that property. So I agree with that as well. Now, here's the third one.
But isn't it true as well? A lot of people will only be able to get a house at all if they just get left a house by their parents after they've died.
I would imagine so. I mean, we have become the great buy-to-let nation now, and that could all implode on us if interest rates go up and people can't afford them. All that gets sold. The value of the property goes down. People like me go bankrupt just because I showed initiative in investing in my future as a younger man.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, let's hope it doesn't happen, because otherwise, I'll be knocking on your door to live in your shed. Now, the third one here, Ben, is
that
this.
That conjures up quite an image, doesn't it?
Yeah, and this is a bugbear of mine.
Okay.
Stag nights. Now, did you have a stag night?
I had 2 stag weekends.
Now, you see, I don't understand this. The idea of a stag night is my last night of freedom. What an insult to your future bride. That actually, to put up with 30 years of married life with you, love, I'm going to go out and get bladdered for a night with my mates because, the thought of it is so horrendous.
But she had 2 hen dos, so I could just as easily be offended by the fact that she wants to have 2 nights of freedom.
I would have been.
It's like talking to somebody who's just come out of a time machine.
Yeah. I would.
Victorian London.
So I'd say to my girl, sorry, you want to go off and get absolutely bladderated with your female friends
but
because
hen dos aren't like that.
Just to steel yourself to the fact that tomorrow you're going to walk up the altar with me, and it's so horrendous you've got to fill yourself full of alcohol.
No, I don't think that's.
Is this before or after you've told her that after we get married I'm going to have a place of my own I'm never going to tell you about?
No, I didn't say that.
It's just one of these things, hen dos, okay, they do get a bit raucous, but for a stag do, it's just like a boys' night out. It's just an excuse. It's a tradition. And most stags I know, most grooms I know actually can't really be bothered with it.
No.
They go along with it.
It's more now for the groom's friends, really, to have a night out, because people don't have nights out that much
Exactly,
anymore.
And certainly when you get your big groups, I mean, for me, I had to have two separate ones, one for my family, one for my friends, because otherwise it would have been about 50 blokes, which, who's going to let you into any sort of pub? I guess Wetherspoons in the Surrey area might, but I don't think many other places would. Could have fish and chips. Yeah. But I don't think it's an insult to the wife at all. I just think it's a great thing, but actually, given the choice, I probably wouldn't have bothered, because I've got quite a good social life, and not being the big I am, but
if you work as a young professional in London, every night's a stag night. When you come out of work and you go in a boozer, an old MG is spending 70 quid on a bottle of champagne for a couple of drinks and all that. So that's another one.
There was a time when that was true. Not for me anymore, though.
Yeah. Now, here's a great story here.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's quite right. That's quite right. As long as you say something intelligent, I don't mind.
Really?
That's not very often.
You could be the judge of that, would you?
Now, here's one, Ben. I want to know if you were ever tempted to this. So this lady is telling her story about her fiancé's stag night. He went off and found somebody else on the stag night. Rubbing her baby bump, Lorraine Deneen waved her future hubby off on his stag do, bounding off to Butlins with 30 pals, but she knew he would come back with a hangover. But she did not expect him to come back with a new girlfriend and secretly cancel the wedding.
So he's being portrayed as a really nasty guy in that article. Yeah. But if it was the other way round, that would be the makings of a Hollywood film, wouldn't it?
Yeah, of course it would.
Poor misguided girl is going to marry into a loveless relationship, goes off to, I don't know, Portugal or New York or wherever.
That's right.
Meets the new guy.
Russell Brand.
Meets Russell Brand or Hugh Grant or whoever it might be.
Exactly.
And that's utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
It happens. People meet new people. Marriages don't always last.
Yeah.
It's just, I've only been
That's the thing. That's
in.
what I was saying. I mean, it's still a 50% chance that your marriage will end in divorce, isn't it?
Well, of course, because
that's a very nice thing to say to a newly married man, isn't it? I do hope your wife's listening at the moment. 50% chance. Trying to
well,
improve
let's hope
odds
she's
on that
listening
one.
and not out with some guy that she met on a stag night or a hen night, right?
Well, maybe the guy she's with is a Two Mikes fan, so it's kind of
very provocative stuff. This,
I mean, I find your hypocrisy quite breathtaking. Really.
I haven't got any hypocrisy about it. Why?
Well, because as it was pointed out earlier, most of your girlfriends have been married women.
It's not my fault. Not my fault. I
was just. You feel no shame about it.
I was just a port of call.
But that's another interesting thing, isn't it? If a married guy has an affair, he's painted as being this absolutely terrible. Isn't it awful what you've done to the wife and whatever? But if you see women embark on extramarital affairs, it seems to be that they're escaping, they're liberating themselves.
Yeah.
There is a bit of a jilted kind of view, in my
I totally agree.
on these things. It's
very, very odd. And finally, this is the last question. How much was it worth spending on your marriage? Not that I want you to reveal the details of that, but is that something... I mean, if I did get married
Do you mean on the wedding itself?
The wedding. If I did get married now, it would be a straight register office do, and it would be a lavish sort of sit-down afterwards for
three of your closest friends.
For no more than 10 people, because I just could not go through the day. And yet, when I was in hospital, funny enough, when my heart went, there was a nurse there, and she said, I haven't met anybody yet, but I definitely want to get married. I just want that special day where I'm the centre of attention all day long.
You don't need that. You can see the centre of attention every day.
Well, that's true, yeah, but I'm talking about...
your own world.
I'm talking about the bride. I mean, what a motive for getting married. I just want a day where I'm the centre of attention all day long.
What's wrong with that?
Well, it's ridiculous. She didn't even have a fella to marry. She just wanted to go through the marriage ceremony. Yeah.
I do know people like that, and there is a word bridezilla, isn't there, where they totally sort of lose track of absolutely everything except what they're going to look like. Everyone's looking at them in the church. But to answer your question, we had a church wedding. We got married in a lovely hotel down in Surrey, the Surrey-Sussex border, and we were prudent. We didn't want to spend ridiculous amounts of money. We were helped out by the father-in-law and whatever.
Sure.
But did you have a free bar?
No.
See, I hate weddings that don't have a free bar.
They don't have.
Do you?
I think that's very,
so you wouldn't have gone to
form.
Ben's wedding then if you'd been invited?
I wouldn't have hung around long.
Just imagine that. Just imagine MG ringing you up saying, "Well, I will come, but is it a free bar?" Oh, it's not. I'm not coming.
We toyed with the idea, but we just thought again. And the only point I was going to make was, we were quite prudent. We pretty much did what we wanted to do. But even when you try to save money, it's just ridiculous. And
because the venue rips you off for a start.
Oh yeah, and you start talking about like you start writing off hundreds of pounds, like it's like pence. And you lose 60p in the vending machine or whatever, and you think, oh well, that's
my wedding in New York was the best way to do it, where it cost me about 10 grand, right, to put this party on. But I asked people to give me money because in America that's what they do, rather than giving. I didn't have a big enough
apartment. That's what we did for the honeymoon,
and I ended up getting about 8 grand back in cash.
Right, that's all right.
So it was all happiness.
Very good, yeah. Well, that's the way you would do it, obviously, with your £70 bottle of champagne.
Traditional way to do it in America.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. Of course, it didn't last, did it?
No, it lasted 15 years.
No, it didn't.
Yeah, it did.
No, it didn't. You told
it
me
lasted 15 years.
You told me.
We were married married for 15 years. What do you mean it didn't last?
You told me you were chasing skirt within 15
marriage
months
lasted
to get
15
married.
years.
Well, it might have lasted
Well, first
15
of all,
years
I
on
would never-
paper,
I would
but your
never-
commitment to
I
it...
would never have
your
used that
commitment,
language.
That's
your
a scurrilous allegation,
I would never
by the
have
way.
used that language.
Your commitment to it
Never.
didn't last 15 weeks, mate.
Never.
I know that for a fact.
Yeah, well...
I was out with you.
No, you weren't.
Yeah, I was.
You were hardly ever out with me.
Well, when I was, I could see the behavioural problem was about to emerge.
Really? Right. Anyway, Ben, thank you very much indeed for that insight.
Thanks, Ben.
He's taken none of it on board, of course, because he believes that his word is the only true word that there is. So
No.
Any opinion which differs from his, he's not interested in.
I see the way.
See the way?
Yeah.
You see the way out?
No, I am the Lord, I am the way. I've just said I see the way.
You think you're the Lord now?
I think I'm
you
the
think
Lord.
you're the Lord now?
No, I'm just saying.
This is the world record.
No.
Onanism to the finest degree.
No. It was part of the quote. I only gave you the second half of the quote. I'm not claiming to be the Lord. No,
that's good. Excellent. Yeah. He is Mike Parry. He's not the Lord.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I remember him
the
now.
Talent man.
Yeah. Why did I sing that then?
I don't know.
No.
I think because we had him on, and I think you wanted to give him a sampling of your vocal cords.
I thought that was quite a good version of it.
He seemed to quite like it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, he would. Did you know that moths can live in your wardrobe for 2 years?
Well, I didn't know that.
And you wouldn't even know they were there until they've eaten half your clothes.
Yeah. Well, I told you I've had this problem with my cashmere jumpers. They've all been sort of nibbled at in the same spot, right in the centre of the chest, right?
Yeah.
And I'm really distressed by it, actually, because I mean, not so much at this time of the year, because I don't really wear them, but in the winter, I like to wear one pretty much when I come into work.
Yeah.
And I had about 7 or 8 of them, and I've only now got about one, because they've all got these holes in them right in the middle.
You had holes in the back of a shirt you had on last night.
The back of the shirt?
Yeah.
Do you think that was moths as well, then?
Well, I don't know, but it was a hole in it, definitely. I noticed it, yeah.
Well, that was a polo shirt, but they don't eat those as well, then?
Yeah, they do. They eat anything.
Well, I may have moths. I mean, I was talking to one of the people in the dry cleaners because I took my jumper in and I said, is there any way that this can be fixed?
Yeah.
And she said there isn't. And not only that, she said, I had a terrible time with moths. She said, I had to get the whole place fumigated to get the moths out because they just continue to eat everything. The only thing they don't seem to attack is my suits. I mean, my suits seem to be all right so far.
Yeah, I cover clothes I'm not wearing for a long time. I cover in a plastic bag.
Yeah.
Like, you get a bin liner.
Yeah.
I take that and I put a hole in the bottom and I put it over the coat.
Does that
or
make
the
a
suit.
difference?
Well, it protects them from moths. But anyway, the reason I tell you this is I go home the other night from doing a show here, so I'm getting in at about 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And it's lights up.
Yeah.
But I've left the kitchen window open.
Right.
Because it was a very hot night. And as I...
What, did you leave a light on as well?
No, I didn't leave a light on, but you've got to remember, within any house, there are points of light. For instance, the lights behind the television.
Right.
Or the light, that comes on when the heating comes on or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And anyway, I switched the light on in the kitchen. I got the shock of my life because this massive, great thing came towards me. I thought it was a bat to start off with, honestly.
A bat?
Yeah, I thought it was a bat. And it came in a huge flurry, and I screamed.
Was this just as you were coming in the door?
Well, as I come in the door, I reach to the right, I flick the switch on, so the light immediately comes on, and the moth must have been sitting on the light. Yeah. That's all I know, because then bang, it came, it was awful. It just shocked me to bits. And then it flew off into the house. That's the worst thing. Because then what they do is they just go and, find a little corner, and they just stay there, and they can stay there for days. So I got the rolled up paper and went round after it.
And did you get it?
Yeah, but I didn't kill it. I put it out the window. Right. Because I found it near a window.
If you touch a moth, though, if you touch its wings, it's incapable of flying, isn't it?
It just disintegrates.
Yeah, it just can't fly anymore.
A moth is made of dust. The most remarkable creatures, because if you whack them, all you're left with is a pile of dust, literally.
Yeah, and a big mark on the wall.
That's right. T.S. Eliot got the line in his poem, The Wasteland, I can show you fear in a handful of dust. Most people think that means that, if you scoop up a handful of dust...
a literary reference.
Yes, exactly.
People say the show's in highbrow.
Yeah, exactly. It is highbrow.
Remarkable.
If you scoop up soil in your hand, ashes to ashes, dust to dust is the biblical reference. Right. But in fact, if you research the poem... He got it from a moth that was fluttering around, which he swiped on his desk when he was writing, and it reduced it to dust. That's all a moth is.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. If you swap them near a wall, they make a terrible mess on the wall.
Yeah.
But what I did is I waved my paper at this moth, and it got very excited and fluttered out.
Yeah.
I thought, it's near a window.
But then you have to slam the window shut, because if the light's on, it will just come straight back in, won't it? Because they can't help it.
Yeah, but it was light then. You see what I mean? It was 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I hurriedly opened the window. And fortunately, the atmospheric, like the wind coming in, caught the moth, And he realised, and wolf, it went out.
Right.
But you know, it was a shocking. It was so huge, this moth. That's what really got me. It was a massive.
I remember
moth.
there was a story some weeks ago, or maybe a couple of months ago, about the fact that there was some new breed of moth that was invading Britain, and they're much bigger, and I don't think they're particularly poisonous or anything like that, but they are much more kind of likely to destroy your clothes, and they're in quicker numbers than anything else.
Yeah, that's a big problem.
How do you know whether there's more of them though? How do you find out?
Well, don't, and I don't know whether moths lay eggs.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Where do moths come from?
Where do they come from?
Yeah, or what do they come from?
Well, I presume they must come from the same kind of idea as a butterfly, right? So if a caterpillar turns into a butterfly, there must be some kind of pooper.
Does a caterpillar really turn into a butterfly?
Yeah, of course it does. Have you never seen those time-lapse pieces of photography with the nature shows?
No.
Where you say, it's an amazing... I saw one actually not that long ago.
So you've got this thing, this caterpillar, which is to all intents and purposes like a sort of...
Like a grub.
Yeah, like a grub or an elongated wine gum.
Yeah.
And that turns into a beautiful caterpillar.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Well, the caterpillar crawls into this kind of... and then makes this cocoon around itself, right?
Yeah.
And then while it's in the cocoon, it literally transforms into another kind of creature.
It's incredible.
It's amazing.
It is absolutely
amazing.
Yeah.
And I was watching this documentary the other week, and it showed you how, as it prepares to emerge from the cocoon, the wings fold out, and it just suddenly has turned into this completely different creature. And there are apparently one or two other types of species, a couple of them in the sea, that do this, that actually can transform themselves into a completely different thing. It's mind-boggling, really.
Yeah, it is.
And I assume moths do the same thing.
Yeah, it is absolutely mind-boggling, and you wonder sometimes whether, that is the greatest example of God's creatures on Earth.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost magic, isn't it, to see that? It is almost magic, yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
But, I mean, as far as... I mean, I'm now wondering whether I need to do something about... if there are moths in my wardrobe, because I haven't seen any. You don't actually see them. You never see them doing anything.
You should be able to get an anti-moth spray.
But this woman told me that she tried absolutely everything, and in the end, she had to clear all of her clothes out of the wardrobe. Yeah. She had to clear all of her curtains, every single any kind of fabric in the house had to be completely taken down and more or less fumigated, and she had to have the whole apartment fumigated, and that was the only way to get rid of them all.
Yeah, you don't want to do that, do you?
No.
Now, how much of the test did you watch today? Did you watch all the damaging stuff at the start?
Well, I didn't really watch it.
I did.
I'm not really a great watcher of cricket, I have to say.
Yeah.
But I was listening to the updates on Talk Sport, and I was rather, I suppose, not happy about the fact that England weren't doing well, but I didn't think they were going to do very well.
Why would you be? Why could you take any joy from that anyway?
Well, because I just thought, all this talk about, we're not going to let you down, and we've got this new great sort of forward-thinking philosophy, and we're going to be much more attacking and all of that. And when I think there was something like 43 for 3, I thought to myself, well, here we go, same old story all over again. But Joe Root appears to have saved the day. Does he not?
He did indeed. He did. Now listen, tomorrow night, talking about cricket, and we played New Zealand, didn't we, in the series before Australia?
In the one-day series,
yeah. Now I've got hold of a report. It's a science report again because I keep in touch with my science reports.
Of course you do.
Somewhere in New Zealand, they found the secret of eternal youth in a place called Dunedin.
Dunedin,
and Dunedin is quite famous for being the location where the England rugby team disgraced themselves that night. Do you remember when they should have been playing the next day or the day after or something?
Well, it's a Scottish name for sort of Edinburgh, isn't it? Isn't that where it comes from?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. But they have found there a number of people. The study focused on 954 people in the New Zealand city of Dunedin, right?
Yeah.
And they've been tracking them for several years. Not only have these people not aged over a period of 8 years...
Not aged?
They've not aged at all over a period of 8 years. Some of them have gone into biological reverse. And their bodies seem younger now than they were 8 years ago.
And what's that down to, do they think?
Scientists using their assessment, they found that some of the 38-year-olds had a body age more like 60. A few were up to 8 years younger than their real age. And they had not aged at all over the tested period. Right. How about that?
So when they were in their 30s... Say that bit again. When they were in their 30s, they seemed like they were older.
Hang on. Using their assessments, they found some of the 38-year-olds had a body age more like 60.
Right.
A few were up to 8 years younger than their real age, and I don't understand
That's what I mean. I mean, if they had a body age of up to 60 when they were only 38... then it's not surprising they haven't aged because they've still got a body age of 60 when they're up to 46.
Hang on. A team who measured the effects of getting older on nearly 1,000 men and women found that over a 12-year period, 3 of the participants had shown no deterioration whatsoever. They had biologically aged 0 years and even begun to look younger.
Wow.
These people,
maybe they're living very healthily then.
Now can hold the key to developing what would in effect be a fountain of youth. And this research has excited scientists all over the world.
Yeah, but I mean, that may just be because it's a very healthy place to live, because New Zealand is a pretty healthy country, isn't it? They have great seafood that you can eat there.
Yeah.
The air quality is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's not an overpopulated
place. But who on
place.
earth... even if they sold the elixir of youth in bottles, in boots, I wouldn't buy it and drink it. No.
Why not?
Well, I don't want to be young forever.
No.
Ridiculous nonsense.
Well, yeah, I mean, you wouldn't want to... I mean, also, if you were going to, say, for example, decide to stick at a particular age, what age would you then decide to stick at? You know, would it be 25? Would it be 35?
Yeah.
Would it be 45? Would it be 55?
Yes.
I mean, you'd have to predict or say what was your favourite decade.
Well,
what is your favourite decade of your own life?
Mine?
Yeah.
Oh, mine would have been the 80s, I suppose. 70s.
No,
or
I mean,
80s.
but your own decade. I mean, like your 30s or your 40s.
Oh, probably
or 50s.
my 30s.
Really?
Probably my 30s.
But you wouldn't want to stay like that forever, though, would you? Because that's the whole point of growing up.
No, you see, it's interesting because you don't quite understand the issue here. You don't understand the issue. There's a separation between mental and physical.
Yeah.
Now, physically, you might want to stay between 30 and 40 all your life. Mentally, that's the period of your life when you're most tormented about trying to make your way in life. I've
never been tormented.
Oh, of course you have.
No.
Of course you have.
I've never been tormented.
You come on, in that case, you've never had any ambition.
No, I have.
When I was 35, I wanted to be, great, famous, rich, successful, have women...
falling at your feet.
Falling at my feet and calling me up every day and all that kind of stuff. And if that wasn't happening, I was working harder and harder every day to try and make sure it did happen.
That's what I've said before, that you and I are different in that way. I've never tormented myself about stuff like that. Whereas
Didn't you find when you were about 18 or 19 or even 17 that the rat race in life began when you were about 16? As soon as you become attractive to women... The rat race in life begins because you want to have a better-looking girlfriend than your mate.
No, I never had that.
You also want to have more money than your mate, so you can take the better-looking girls out, right? You also want to be...
Yeah, but you've been tormenting yourself about this stuff all your life.
No.
You never bothered me.
You also want to be getting better results at school than your mate, or mates, plural.
Yeah.
You also want to make sure...
Better car.
Yeah, you want to get a car quicker than your mate. You want to get a better job than your mates. You want to be the number uno banana, right. You know what I mean? Which I always wanted to be.
This is why you've tormented yourself all your life about
No,
this
I haven't.
stuff.
I haven't.
You'll always move into a new circle of people where you will not be the numero uno banana.
Well, in that case, that's good because then you strive to be number one uno banana.
Right.
Okay?
No, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
but I'm saying
exactly.
if it torments you, though, that's not a good thing.
No, well...
you need to find peace.
No.
You've never found peace, have you?
I'm about to say to you, so mentally you pass through an age when you think, yeah, I'm at peace now. I'm at peace with the world.
Yeah, are you really?
Completely at peace with the world. Why shouldn't I be?
Well, because you haven't got to where you want to be.
What do you mean? I've got there and moved on.
Okay.
It's not a problem.
Well, I'm very happy for you.
Yeah, absolutely not a problem at all. In fact, I might go back there. I might go back there.
It's not detectable, though.
What do you mean it isn't detectable?
No, because you're always telling me that you're still striving to do more and to be more and to have more and to, to be, more important.
I have two philosophies in life. One is if you're not winning, it's because you're not trying hard enough.
Right.
And the second one, the only pursuit worth pursuing is the pursuit of excellence.
Yes.
And once you stop pursuing excellence,
so
once you stop pursuing excellence, it's not worth being alive.
But you're still doing all that, so therefore you're still pressurising yourself.
Are you not pursuing excellence?
And you're still tormenting yourself. I'm pretty happy with what I'm doing.
You see, you're sort of self-satisfied, and that's the problem. Once you get self-satisfied, you've had it, honestly. You go backwards when you're self-satisfied. The pursuit of excellence keeps you ahead of the game all the time.
James says this. He's texted into 81089. Mr. Parry must be taking that water. He doesn't look a day over 70.
Well, it's very kind of you. Of course, I'm not a day over 70 because I'm not a day over 60, and I'm in early middle age, and 50-ish.
It says in the Newcastle Chronicle, it says 58.
Rubbish.
It says you're 58. What do you mean rubbish? It says it in the paper.
Does it?
You must have told me you were 58.
I didn't tell them I was 58. They must have worked that out for themselves. But
have you seen the time, by the way?
Yeah. Well, don't even worry about the time. Now, coming up next, of course, is the
Porkyvision. It is absolutely right. The finest UK TV review anywhere in this entire land. It's up next on TalkSport.
On DAB digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The pressure's on now.
Relieve the itch. TalkSport.
This is TalkSport. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on, of course. It is that time of the week where Mr. Parry turns his eye to more of the arts, I suppose you might say, and tells us what he's been watching on TV and what's worth doing and what's not worth doing. Mr. Parry, over to you.
Yeah, OK. Now, listen, I'll tell you what I saw this week.
Yeah.
I've mentioned it before, but I watched it in detail this week, and that was the John Bishop show.
Oh, yeah.
The John Bishop variety show.
Oh, yeah.
It's a bit like Sunday night at the London Palladium, but it's all John Bishop's guests. Now, I think he's great, John Bishop. He's a very, very funny man. He's great, clean comic. You don't have any problems going to his shows and all that kind of stuff. You don't cringe at things he says.
Right.
I think he's absolutely smashing bloke.
Family entertainment.
Family entertainment at its best, absolutely. Very talented boy, brings out videos and all that kind of stuff.
Does he?
We're making a video this week, aren't we?
We are indeed, yeah.
Two Mike's video,
Absolutely right.
Hope it's going to be out in the autumn for the Christmas sale. Anyway, sorry, that's by the by, getting diverted. Now...
So does he have a lot of other comedians?
Well, this is a great thing about it, you see. The only thing I would say, my only criticism of the John Bishop show is you don't see enough of John Bishop.
Right.
And what he does is he uses it as a platform, because this is the sort of guy I think he is, to give other comedians, maybe a starting life.
Well, that's good of him then, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it's good, yeah. And some of them are very funny, and some of them are a bit Jimmy Carr-ish.
Yes.
And when I mean that...
what do you mean by that?
Well, I'm not saying that Jimmy Carr's not a talented musician, comedian.
Right.
I'm just saying that I don't actually get a lot of his humour because it's too clever for me, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I'm not saying that it's not good. I mean, it just appeals to other people. So he's gone... But
stand-up comedy is very hard, isn't it?
Oh, incredibly hard.
Especially if you're on a show like that where you're up against a guy who's already very successful and very smooth.
Yeah, exactly. But there was one act on this John Bishop show which was brilliant, and I want to try it on you.
Okay.
I want to try it on you, not tonight, because I need a bit of preparation.
Okay.
But what happens is this girl comes on with a bag, right, and she says, "Hi, Ronnie, I need an assistant from the audience," and somebody at random comes up, and then in her bag, she's got a false head. And
false head?
Yeah, she's got a false head.
What, you mean like a mannequin's head?
Yeah, like the head that you'd give a mascot at a football match. You see what I mean?
Yeah. What, like an animal's head or something?
Yeah, but it's like a robot head, you see.
Okay.
So she puts the robot head on the bloke.
Yeah.
And what that effectively does is it stops him from speaking.
Right.
But it's got a mechanical jaw.
Uh-huh.
Now, she's a ventriloquist.
Right.
So she then uses the other guy as the ventriloquist dummy.
Yeah.
And she's doing all the talking.
Okay.
So she's asking him questions. The guy can't speak because his mouth has been sealed off by the mask.
Right.
But
she's moving the exterior mouth.
She's moving the exterior mouth. She's got a little thing in her hand, a little control in her hand.
Yeah.
She's moving the exterior mouth up and down,
Right.
but she's doing all the talking.
All right.
And it's hilarious.
Is it?
It is absolutely hilarious.
So you're going to try it on me?
I'm going to try it on you.
Well,
because
you're not a ventriloquist, though.
No, well, I'm going to try and be one. I'm going to
okay.
practice my ventriloquism this week until next week, and then try and do it next week. Okay. Now,
we're going to get the false head, though.
Well, we're not. We're going to use the Henry VIII mask that you posed a picture in. Now, have you still got that?
I've still got that. Yeah.
Right, bring the Henry VIII mask in, please.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to speak in my own voice, but I'm going to ventriloquise Henry VIII's voice.
But that mouth doesn't move, though. Unfortunately.
Well, I'm going to have to think of some device to.
Yeah, we'll just have to pretend.
We'll have to build on that or something like that. Yeah. Or my lips aren't moving or something like that.
Okay.
But it was a very brilliant show.
Okay.
Now then, I've previewed...
Was it a woman called Nina Conti? Does that sound familiar?
Does it sound familiar?
I'm told that might have been the name of the person
Could have been.
who could do that.
She was great. I mean, she was brilliant. Very good act. And
All
obviously John Bishop, I suppose he must get contacted by all sorts of people,
Yeah, sure.
want to be on his show and all kind of stuff. And he's doing that. But she was brilliant. And that's a great show. I'm going to watch it again next week. Now, I've previewed a couple of shows, right? So I don't care whether the klaxon goes off or not.
Right.
Because these are terrible, terrible, shocking programmes which give me the collywobbles. Yeah, that's right, yeah. And one of them is a benefit show, which is on Channel 5 tonight, and it's called Too Fat to Work, okay? Right. And this follows the lives of young people who are on benefits, right, including a collection of people who get special benefits payments because they're registered as disabled because they are too fat and obese to go to work. And there's one girl in it called Amy Johnson. She's 18. Yeah. She weighs 30 stone, and she's housebound.
30 stone?
Yeah, she's housebound.
Blimey.
And she lives on benefits, right? Well, the idea is just stop giving her benefits. That's what I say.
Yeah, but what would happen then, though?
I don't know.
That's the problem. I mean, I know that these are some of these issues we talk about a lot.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you suddenly stopped the benefits, what would actually happen?
Well, she'd have to get up and go out and do something in life. You can't... I mean, didn't you see the story last week of the fattest man in this country?
Yeah.
56 stone, a repulsive... It wasn't his fault, he's got some sort of an illness, but repulsive picture of a fat, bloated man who lay on his side and eventually died.
Yeah, he did.
Because his heart couldn't put up with, supporting the weight of his body. Right. Now, the obesity crisis in this country is massive, and if somebody doesn't take it by, the scruff of the neck and do something about it, it will become an epidemic, and it'll crush us all. Yeah. Because it'll be too expensive to start treating people at hospitals and all this kind of stuff. But, I mean, that programme, it's on Channel 5, as I say, should be seen not as a horror show, you know, not as something...
As a freak show.
Exactly, a freak show is the word I was looking for, that you might see in a 19th century circus, come and see the fat lady sing.
But that's kind of how they do those shows,
Well,
isn't
it shouldn't be. It should be given a dire warning, you know, unless we get hold of this problem, the country's going to sink, literally, under the weight of our obese members of society, and it's got to be sorted. And the other one that's on tonight, on Channel 4, right, don't know why Channel 4 and Channel 5 do these sort of crazy programmes, is this ridiculous programme where they match people together to meet each other and get married 5 minutes later.
5 minutes later?
It's unbelievable.
What's that
it's
one
unbelievable. Called? It's called Married at First Sight, right? And what happens is these people, they just get together, mix socially for about, I don't know, hours, that's all.
Yeah.
And then they, you know, some so-called expert works out the compatibility of the couples involved.
Okay.
And from a pool of 1,500 applicants, right, who've been assessed by a panel of so-called experts in the fields of psychology, theology and anthropology.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like they're trying to make out, we seriously looked at
we do this very properly,
antecedents of this...
Because it's like reality TV gone mad, isn't it?
Yeah, and then two people get married, and these people actually get married.
And
it's
they have
unbelievable.
to stay married.
Well, they don't stay married very long. I think.
But, I mean, they're legally married. It's all done properly.
They get legally married.
Yeah.
They get legally married. I mean, it's ridiculous.
That is mad, isn't it?
Do you know what?
Don't you have to, like, post bands, though, and stuff like that for a week or
I don't know how they do it.
Get married?
I don't know how they do it. I don't know whether it's clever editing on the show or like that. But the way it transpires is that an hour after meeting somebody, you're married to them.
Yeah.
And that's it. You've set up... I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous.
That sounds bonkers.
Absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And that should...
and presumably they have couples who decide they're not compatible, so they don't want to get married, and then others who do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it's mad. It's mad. Now, the other thing I've been watching on telly, because it's just come back to telly, it's on one of those channels like ITV4 or something, Doctor in the House. Now, do you remember Doctor in the House?
Very many years ago.
Brilliant programme. And it starred some young actors who became household names, all that kind of stuff.
That was before Man About the House, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right. It was before Man About the House. And what I like about those shows is... Black
and white Doctor in the House?
No, it's colour.
Is it?
Colour, yeah. What I like about those shows is that it shows the values which we had as humans and families and professionals and doctors in the 70s compared to today.
Yeah.
And I prefer the values of the 70s.
Really? But that was a
prefer the values
permissive
of
age, the 70s, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't that permissive, not really.
It was pretty permissive.
It was when doctors were shown complete and utter respect by their patients. You didn't have some guy going in there off his face demanding morphine and all this kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
It was probably easier to get a GP in those days.
Yeah, it was much easier to get a GP. And the trouble is, society's degenerated since then. So I like watching those programmes like that. People have a go at me and say, you watch Man About the House, you watch Robin's Nest, you know, you watch Doctor in the House.
Yeah.
It was a better world. It was a better world, I'm telling you.
Right.
It's a better world. I would now like to go back in the time warp, right, and say, tell you what, let's go to a little bistro, I remember, from 1974 or something like that. It was a gentler, more pleasant world, OK?
There was much less on offer as well. There was much less choice about everything.
Yeah, there was much less choice, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. I mean, the point is, it was a more civilised world, in my view.
It was a more sexist world as well, you'd have to say.
It was, I'm afraid. Yeah, that's very true. And but nobody actually recognised sexism in those days. No. It was just part of the culture of society, you know, men and women. Now, one thing I'm going to be watching tonight is Coast. Coast has come back on BBC Two. It's a brilliant programme. Don't you like it?
Well, I do like the sort of imagery of it, and I can't get along terribly well with the man who's in charge of it.
Oh, I think he's great. The Scottish guy.
Yeah, the Scottish guy with long hair.
Yeah, he wanders around like that bloke from Kung Fu, doesn't he?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Well, I know what, David Carradine.
Yeah, Khan. Was his name Khan?
I think it was Khan, yeah.
No, Khan?
Kane.
Yeah, Kane.
The Wrath of Kane.
I wander the earth to help people who are in trouble, grasshopper.
Yeah, but this guy doesn't wander the earth trying to help people. He just wanders the earth trying to sort of map it.
No, but I think he's brilliant because he has a little bag, quite a big bag strapped across his shoulder, and he wanders around. But the guy is a fully qualified archaeologist.
He's an archaeologist or a historian or something.
He's a fully...
Neil Oliver, I think his name is.
Neil Oliver. Yeah. He's a fully qualified historical archaeologist, seriously.
Oh, no, I think he's great. There's something about his kind of persona that I can't quite get into, though.
And do you know why I like watching it?
Why?
Because it reminds us us of what a brilliant country we live in.
Yeah.
You know, when you see them wandering around the coast of North East Scotland, wandering around the peninsulas in Wales, wandering down Cornwall and Devon, wandering around the coastline in County Antrim, Northern Ireland, it reminds us what a beautiful, beautiful country we've got, and we should go out and see more of it. That's what I say, OK? I live on the coast because I love the coast. The coast is great. It's what defines... What are you laughing at? What are you laughing at?
Because this is not a TV review. This is your homage to
It defines our very existence. It defines our being. It defines where we are. Remember, it was the coastline which stopped Hitler invading this country. It was the coastline which made the Romans want to invade this country. The coast has been everything to us. It always will be.
Yeah.
I love the coast.
Funnily enough, the Romans are the subject of the quiz tomorrow night.
Indeed they
also,
are.
I'm going to say this before we finish Porkyvision. Your perfect show, by the sounds of it, would be Coast set in the 70s.
Maybe.
That would be the way it would go.
With John Bishop in the theatre on the end of the South End Pier.
Exactly right.
Yes, absolutely.
That was Porkyvision.
It certainly was. It was good, wasn't it, tonight?
It was very good, yeah.
Good.
Very good indeed. I'm sure the...
It's a winner.
I'm sure the listeners will tell us if they thought it was good.
Well, I'll tell you something.
It was full of information.
Fed up with the listeners who've been slamming my my Porkyvision reviews and saying I didn't know what I was talking about. I hadn't watched the programmes, and it was a waste of time.
Yeah,
I take offence to that. I've got feelings, you know. I've got feelings.
I know. We've heard that. We've heard it too many times recently. Coming up, we've got loads more. This is the Two Mics. Now, I don't want you bursting into song just yet. Because we were talking about Raheem Sterling a little bit earlier on, and how he's refusing to go on tour, and how the Liverpool Football Club are trying to make him go on tour.
Where are Liverpool going?
They're going off to Australia and the Far East, Asia, I think. And I've just been handed some information which tells us that they're actually spending probably the most amount of miles going away to Australia and the Far East.
Bangkok.
24,030 miles they're going to be travelling in pre-season. I see
Bangkok, Australia,
Everton's
Brisbane.
not doing as much as that. At 10,000 less, 14,538 miles.
Yeah.
Leicester City, after that shenanigans of the post-season trip to Thailand, are only going 354 miles.
Yeah.
So I think they've finally learned their lesson.
I mean, honestly, when you get evidence like this, it does make you laugh when these clubs complain about long, tiring seasons and they wear their players out before the season's even started.
I know.
But in some cases, and Everton's is certainly a case in point, it's a contractual obligation.
Yeah.
Everton sponsors Chang, our Far East company.
Yeah.
And clearly they're taking place in what's called the Asia Cup. It's in Singapore. Well, you know, that's the Asian connection for Everton's sponsors.
And there are some Everton fans, I suppose, that will go out there and go and watch them play a couple of games. They're going up to Scotland as well, aren't they?
Yeah, I knew they were going there because I got an invitation, actually, to go to Hearts to watch them.
Tynecastle?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And,
are you going?
Well, I don't know, because...
fine place, Edinburgh.
Yeah, no, it's a very fine place indeed. If I can go, I quite like... pre-season friendlies because they don't have all the stress and tension of a Premier League game.
Yeah.
I remember one year when I was working on the Birmingham Mail, right, and I think I told you I worked in the Redditch office because I told you about
mentioned that,
the Redditch tennis tournaments I used to play in.
Well,
right?
it wasn't really a tournament, was it?
No,
it was 15 minutes before the bar opened.
Yeah, it's exactly that, right, yeah. But Redditch is on the road that goes right the way down to Worcester.
Yeah.
And I found that Everton were playing Worcester in a pre-season friendly. And Worcester had a manager called Nobby Clark.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to write a column every Monday morning about the conference teams in our area, which were Worcester, Kidderminster, Redditch, Alvechurch, and Stourbridge, I think, something like that.
Right.
And so I knew him quite well. Anyway, he made me guest of honour at the Everton game, and it was fantastic. It was the first time I sort of got up close to the Everton hierarchy. You know, I think Gordon Lee was the manager, and we had a guy called Imran Varadi, who was our striker, and he was a young fellow, and I thought he was going to be brilliant. Never heard of him again. So I quite like them. But you're absolutely right. In those days, clubs just played a few non-league teams around the country, and now, as you quite rightly say, Liverpool are going 24,000 miles.
Yeah. Well, I see Louis van Gaal after he complained last year that they were playing too many games and they were putting themselves under too much pressure.
11,000.
They're going to do about 11,000, but apparently he turned down a game that was going to be in Berkeley in San Francisco, near San Francisco, because he thought there was going to be too much crisscrossing of the country. Right. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it is a ridiculously crazy situation. I'd be amazed if people actually go and travel and see.
Yeah.
But I certainly know that I think it was last season when Everton went down to Malaysia or Thailand.
Yes.
Some of our fans down in Australia actually went, because for them to go from Australia up there to watch a game, that's
not
great
bad,
business for them.
It is great business, but as you quite rightly say, it's all part of the pre-season razzmatazz. What I don't quite understand is that often these tours take place before the final players they've bought have been integrated into the squad.
Yeah, right.
So what I'm saying is Everton are going to play 4 or 5 games. Roberto Martinez comes back, thinks he's got a settled squad, but the window doesn't close till the end of August.
Yeah.
So they go on buying players then, and that means that they've got then what you could be saying is a new experimental team and an unbalanced one.
Yeah, and that might not be something that everybody wants, but I mean, it's a bit like, the travel thing we're going to be hearing in the next hour about Swansea's got this plan to help subsidise travelling for away supporters because it's become so expensive.
Yes.
Because actually, I was looking at, during the school holidays, whether it might be a good thing to take one of my sons or me, two of my sons to a football match, whether it was the Community Shield or something like that. Yeah. And the prices are absolutely prodigious.
Are they?
The cheapest ticket I think that I could find for a Community Shield game for Chelsea
quid?
Arsenal. No, it was closer to 100.
No, you're joking, is it?
It was like nearly 100 quid.
Not good.
So you're talking about spending 300 quid to take two kids to a football match, which is just bonkers.
Yeah, no, it is. I totally agree, and it's. By the way, just buying the ticket is not the end of your cost.
No.
You've got to give your kids some lunch and all that kind of stuff. You've got to get there, travelling, parking, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I honestly don't know how the working man these days affords to follow football.
I don't.
And in particular, my support for the Chancellor's new budget move to pay £9 an hour minimum wage and all that. I mean, that somebody on the minimum wage working 40 hours a week now gets what we work out, £360
quid.
Yeah. I mean,
and you're going to pay 100 quid to go to a football match.
I was about to say,
at the very least.
If you go with your two kids to a football match, you spend more than that in a day.
Exactly.
You literally will.
Yeah.
If you're driving them, say, 30 or 40 miles in your car, which you have to pay for, and the petrol and the travel and the tickets and the lunch and all that, and even a programme costs £5 these days.
Well,
and you'd want more than one programme if you've got two kids.
Isn't it? Isn't it more than a fiver, probably?
Well, so I think the average one's about a fiver or something like that. Big games at Wembley, at least £10. You're absolutely right.
I'll tell you who I feel sorry for in this current situation is anyone who's trying to get down to the Ashes for the second day's test.
Yeah, because of the transport situation in London.
There are no tubes tomorrow at all, right?
Yeah.
At all. Normally when there's some kind of train strike here in London Underground, there is a few lines actually working and some things running. But for some reason this time there is absolutely nothing running. And I don't know whether that's that great... First Great Western strike is still going on, but I think it's going to make it very difficult for people to get anywhere on a train.
Well, I hope they don't do it on the East Coast line, because I'm going up to Newcastle for our show up there on the train.
Oh, yeah? When?
Yeah, week on Saturday.
Oh, the week on Saturday. Well, it should be. Hopefully, there won't be any more strikes by then.
You don't know.
Well, you know what you could do? There's a new service, actually, that you could try out.
What's that?
It's called Blah Blah Car.
What?
Blah Blah Car.
What's that?
It's got a website and it's got an app, right? And what you do is you connect with people who are also travelling to where you're going.
Yes.
So if you, for example, wanted to go down to Cardiff tomorrow,
right,
you could go on this website and maybe find people that are going there.
Yeah.
But you'd have to sit in a car with people you didn't know.
Oh, no, I wouldn't do that.
Wouldn't you?
I don't want to sit in a car with strangers.
Well, it's better than not getting there, though, isn't it?
No, it's not. No. What social intercourse would I have with a perfect stranger in the back of a car?
Well, you might meet somebody that was charming and, erudite, and you might even meet the first Mrs. Parry, I suppose.
No, you're far more likely to meet some crashing bore who might have BO.
Not necessarily.
Might have BO.
No, it'd be somebody
who's
looking to save a bit of money.
Oh, well, if you want to save money, mate, go and, get on I don't know, some sort of a train or something, but don't travel in my car. No way at all.
So this is not for you?
Certainly not for me. No, not at all. Now, what I was going to say to you was this. Did you know that when Rod Stewart got married to Penny Lancaster, she insisted that he stop wearing tight trousers?
I think I did know that.
Because she wanted more children.
Yeah, and she was concerned that it might be doing damage to his cojones.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She
might have been right about that.
She claimed that, those very tight trousers he wore on stage, and which he seemed to wear most of the time, were crushing the areas of his body where... things are generated to procure children.
Yes, indeed.
And
very nicely put.
Yeah, exactly. And so she made him stop wearing tight trousers and start sitting in cold baths to regenerate.
I'm sure this is a story that came out a few years ago. I saw the story in the paper the other day, but it's just not something that came out a while ago.
Well, I don't know. I didn't know about it. I didn't know that she'd actually insisted on it. But I mean, I think what you could have said to her is, because he was 60 at the time, right? Well, hang on, I've already got about 5 children, so the tight trousers haven't really, interfered with my reproductive machinery
No.
up until now. Why should it? Why should it in the future? I mean, for any wife to tell her husband stop wearing tight trousers when you're a rock star of Rod Stewart's eminence is a bit off, isn't it?
Maybe when you get to the age of 60, you should voluntarily stop wearing tight trousers anyway.
No, I don't think you should if you're Rod Stewart, because, I mean, they're a trademark of his, weren't they?
Yeah.
Did you ever wear tight trousers?
Well, I did when I was younger.
Rubbish.
When I was a teenager, yeah. Well, I was very thin. I mean, it was only when I went
Very
to...
thin.
I was
That must have been in some parallel universe to the one we live in now.
No, the only place I started actually putting weight on was when I moved to New York. When I went to New York first, when I was 23 years old, I was absolutely as skinny as a rake.
Really, yeah.
And the only
I don't
reason
remember seeing you skinny as a rake, frankly.
Yeah, I was when you first met me, actually.
I'm not sure about that.
And then suddenly, after about 2 or 3 years of eating the gargantuan portions of food and the amount of drink that I was taking on, which was probably even worse.
Exactly.
I kind of never looked back really, but ever since then I've always been about the same weight. But yeah, when I was a teenager, there was a time I used to have those corduroy trousers with very thick cords, as opposed to the thin ones.
Yeah,
they were very sort of.
I never liked corduroy trousers.
Yeah. I only wore those, and funnily enough, my sister and I, who were like 2.5 years different in age, we were the same size, and we used to sometimes, just wear each other's trousers if we didn't have any spare, because we were the same size.
Interesting. Now I've got some news for you here, and this is for everybody out there,
you
right?
didn't find it interesting at all.
I found it interesting.
You said interesting, and then you immediately
No,
jumped
I
to
found
something
it.
else.
But I don't like to waste time dwelling on things.
Because we haven't got a lot of time.
And time is a little bit short. Now, what I want to say to all our listeners out there is I'm going to provide you now with a public service, okay? If you do have tight trousers, if you think you've got a problem, don't worry. Get yourself some sort of thermometer, attach it to your intricate areas, and as long...
What, like a glass thermometer?
Yeah.
That sounds a bit dangerous.
And as long as the temperature in that area is 34.5 degrees centigrade, that's okay.
But surely if you sit down with a thermometer in that particular area with a pair of tight trousers, you're going to break the thermometer.
No.
The mercury's going to poison you.
No.
The glass is going to puncture one of your veins.
No.
You're going to end up dead.
No, what I'm saying is, after you've worn the tight trousers, take the tight trousers off, then...
then take the temperature.
And then take the temperature of the erogenous area concerned, and if it's...
The erogenous area concerned?
Yes, that's right, yeah. If it's 34.5 centigrade... then your equipment should be in reproductive mode.
Well, how do you take your temperature, though, if you've already taken the trousers off? Because that will artificially cool the area, won't it?
Well, you put it into the folds of... skin or whatever, and you know what I mean, and you can work out whether your reproductive system's going to work or not.
Ridiculous.
No, it's not. It's true. It's absolutely true.
Whose idea is all this then?
It's my idea to help people.
You haven't read this as a piece of medical advice?
No, I haven't. No. Well,
for anybody who is listening, please do not take this as medical advice.
What I did is I did research what the temperature needs to be of the. I remember years ago. Do you remember an actor called? I've forgotten his name now, but he was in Reach for the Sky.
Reach for the Sky.
Kenneth Moore. Kenneth Moore, yeah.
Right. I should say he's now putting his arms out like dam busters.
That's right. Yeah. Now he got married to a younger wife, and she made him sit in cold baths all day to lower the temperature of his scrotum contents. right. If you see what I mean, because cold stimulates the mass sort of production of the male sperm.
Does it?
Which you need to create children.
You certainly do.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's
I had no
what I'm
idea
saying.
you're such an expert.
Yeah, I am.
On
I am an expert. I'm an expert. Right. And as long as it's 34.5 degrees centigrade, don't worry. Right. You will not be hindering the process that I've been talking about.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, you learn something every day.
Of course you do.
Thank you very much.
If you listen to this show, you learn something every minute.
Yes, it's like a public service.
It is.
Be very careful, though, with the glass and the thermometer and all of that, particularly with the tight trousers. But I don't think too many people wear them these days.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Are you pleased to see me, or is that a thermometer?